The box with my name in it was gray. Everything else on Paige's Christmas schedule had a color. Nathan's family was blue. Friends were green. Meals were gold, except for Christmas dinner, which got a red border and a little holly sprig that made it look legally binding. At the bottom of Christmas Eve, beneath cocktails, Tessa Jordan, and above set table, was a gray rectangle. Mom's visit, if time allows. I read it 3 times with a wooden spoon in my hand and butter spitting in a saucepan behind me. Paige had invited me for 5 nights. My train ticket was clipped to the refrigerator. 2 wrapped presents were waiting in the hall, and 12 cups of cornbread were drying on sheet pans because Paige said Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without my stuffing. Yet there I was on her schedule, not arriving or staying or celebrating, visiting, if time allowed. My phone buzzed before I could decide whether to laugh. It was a message from Paige. "Don't forget, Nathan hates celery strings. Peel first, please." The butter began to burn. I turned off the stove and carried the saucepan to the sink, where it sat hissing like it had an opinion. I was still staring at the gray box. My first thought was that Paige had made a mistake. My second was that I was 69 years old and had spent too much of my life inventing innocent explanations for people before they were required to offer one. I called her. She didn't answer. A minute later, she sent, "In the middle of something." "Emergency," I typed. "Just a question about the schedule." 3 dots appeared, vanished, and appeared again. Call in 10? That meant 25. Paige had inherited my late husband's belief that time was a substance you could stretch by speaking confidently about it. David used to come downstairs in his undershirt at 6:15 and say, "We can be in the car by 6:20. He'd still be hunting for his shoes at 6:35, but he never lost faith. The thought of him made me smile before it hurt. 4 years without him, and grief had become less like a storm and more like a bad knee. It didn't knock me down anymore. It simply announced itself when I turned a certain way. I wiped the stove, threw away the butter, and went back to the dining room. Paige's schedule filled my laptop screen. It was 6 pages long. On December 22nd, Nathan's parents, Beverly and Frank, were arriving at 2. Their guest room was marked "Ready" in capital letters. At 4:30, Paige and Nathan would take them to see the lights downtown. On the 23rd, Nathan's brother Simon and his wife, Monica, were due at 11, followed by lunch at 12:30 and a neighborhood party at 7. My train arrived at South Station at 10:48 on the 22nd. There was no pickup listed. I scrolled upward, thinking perhaps I had missed it. I found a note in small type beside Nathan, "Picks up Beverly Frank." "Mom, rideshare?" Not even a complete sentence, more like a thought someone had while checking the refrigerator for mustard. I had known the house would be full. That was part of why Paige sounded so delighted when she invited me. "You'll stay through the 27th, she had said. "No rushing this year. We'll drink coffee in our pajamas and actually talk." I'd asked where everyone would sleep. "We have room now, Mom. That's the whole point of buying this monster." The monster was a white colonial outside Boston with 5 bedrooms if you counted Nathan's office, which Paige did when discussing the mortgage and did not when discussing overnight guests. She and Nathan had moved in during September. I had seen it once, when the living room still held 6 unopened boxes labeled books, and Nathan was walking around with a stud finder as if it were a medical instrument. Paige had shown me the guest room at the end of the hall. Pale blue walls, brass reading lamps, a quilt folded at the foot of the bed. "This is yours at Christmas," she'd said. Apparently the room had changed citizenship since then. The phone rang at exactly 23 minutes. "Hi, Mom." Paige sounded breathless. "What's up?" In the background, something scraped across a floor. "What are you doing?" "Trying to figure out where normal people keep extension leaves." "You don't know where your dining table leaf is?" "We put it somewhere logical, which is the problem." A man's voice said something I couldn't make out. Paige called away from the phone. "I already looked in there. Is that Nathan?" "No, a handsome burglar." "Yes, it's Nathan. What's the schedule question?" I turned the laptop toward me, though I knew the words by then. "I'm looking at Christmas Eve." "Okay." There's a box at the bottom that says, Mom's visit, if time allows. A short silence followed, not a guilty silence, a searching one. Right, she said. What does that mean? It's just a placeholder. For what? For us. Us doing what? Whatever we decide. She gave a quick laugh. Coffee, presents, mom time. It's not an appointment at the dentist. I rested my hand on the back of the chair. I thought my visit was from the 22nd through the 27th. It is. Probably. One word can change the temperature of a room. Probably did it without raising its voice. What do you mean, probably? Nathan, not the basement, Paige called. Then to me, sorry. Simon and Monica may have to stay longer than we thought. Monica doesn't want to drive back on Christmas night, which is understandable. What does that have to do with my visit? It affects the rooms. I have the blue room. I know. That was the original plan. I looked toward the hall where my suitcase sat open on the bench. I had already put my slippers in it. And the new plan? We don't know yet. That's why the schedule says, if time allows. Time or space? Both, I guess. Mom, it's fluid. I imagined her standing in her enormous kitchen, one hand pressed to her forehead, wearing the camel-colored sweater that made her eyes look greener. Paige was beautiful when she was irritated. It had always seemed unfair. Where am I sleeping? I asked. We're working it out. I arrive in 9 days. I know what day you arrive. Do you? Of course I do. What time? There was another silence. This one was different. I don't have the schedule open. 10:48? Fine. 10:48 at South Station. Yes, Mom. Who's picking me up? We talked about your getting a car. No. You said Nathan would probably get me. Well, his parents are coming in that afternoon and they have luggage, and Frank's knee, I have luggage. I realize that. And knees. Mom. I almost laughed. It was the kind of answer David would have loved, and for half a second I wanted to call him afterward and perform the whole conversation. He would have said I'd won on points but lost on tone. There was more scraping at Paige's end, followed by Nathan saying, "Found it." "Where?" Paige asked. "The garage." "That makes no sense. You put it there." "I did not put finished wood in a Massachusetts garage." "Paige," I said. "Sorry. What? I'm trying to understand whether I'm invited." "Oh my God, of course you're invited. Then why am I marked if time allows?" "You're not." "Our one-on-one time is. It says, Mom's visit." "Because I know what I meant. I let that sit between us." Paige exhaled. "Look, the whole point is that everyone else has specific needs. Beverly and Frank need to know when they're being picked up. Simon and Monica need the guest room because Monica can't sleep on the pullout. Tessa and Jordan are only free Christmas Eve. You're with us the whole time, so I can fit our time around everything else. Fit our time around everything else." Behind me, the dining room clock clicked forward. David had bought that clock at an estate sale and spent 2 weekends repairing a mechanism he did not understand. It ran 4 minutes slow and chimed 13 times at noon unless I opened the case and threatened it. "I see," I said. "You're easy, Mom. That's what I love about you. You don't make everything complicated." The words were meant kindly. That was the part that got me. I looked again at the schedule. Paige had protected a 45-minute window for setting the table. She had protected 2 hours for cocktails with friends she saw every month. She had protected Nathan's morning run. The time with me was what could move, shrink, or vanish. "What happens if Simon and Monica stay?" I asked. "We have options, such as the pullout in the office. For me? Maybe. Or there's that inn on Route 2. It's cute. I'm not paying for a hotel after traveling up for a visit you invited me to. I didn't say you would pay. Then who would? We haven't gotten that far. You made 6 pages of plans and didn't get as far as where your mother sleeps?" Her voice tightened. "This is exactly why I didn't want to get into it until I had an answer. You sent me the schedule. I sent it to everyone." "Yes." "I noticed everyone else has a place. Mom, please don't turn a logistics issue into a statement about how much I love you. That was Paige's gift. She could name the unreasonable thing you were about to say so efficiently that you felt foolish for having it in your mouth. I didn't say anything about love. You didn't have to. Nathan spoke again in the background, quieter now. Paige answered him with her hand over the phone, but I caught the words, "It's fine." Fine was our family's most dishonest word. I sat down. On the sideboard behind my laptop were 3 polished silver serving pieces wrapped in old pillowcases. Paige had borrowed them the previous Christmas and forgotten to return them until June. Then I had forgotten she returned them because apparently objects in my house traveled more reliably than I did. "Do you still want me to make the stuffing?" I asked. "What?" "Yes, definitely. And the cranberry relish. If it's not too much. The cheese straws? Beverly loves them. Am I still receiving the grocery delivery? If you're there by 2, that would help enormously. Nathan has to go back out for his parents. My train gets in at 10:48. Exactly. I almost admired it. My bed was uncertain, but my availability to receive 6 bags of somebody else's groceries had survived every revision. Paige kept talking, her irritation dissolving now that we had reached practical matters. Also, the dishwasher repair window is 1 to 4 on the 23rd. I know that's annoying, but you said you weren't interested in the neighborhood party. I said I didn't know anyone. You'd hate it. Would I? Yes. She laughed. Trust me. It's all people talking about renovations and pretending they like natural wine. And where will you be while I'm waiting for the repairman? We're taking Beverly and Frank to lunch. I'm not going? A pause. We only have the reservation for 4. There it was again. Not cruelty exactly. Cruelty required noticing where the knife was. I glanced toward the kitchen. The dried cornbread covered nearly every available surface. I had spent the morning cutting it into careful cubes because Paige once told me torn bread looked rustic in a bad way. She had been joking. Mostly. "Mom?" she said. "I'm here. Are we okay?" The old answer rose automatically. Of course. It was already formed. I could hear myself saying it with the right lightness, giving her permission to find the table leaf and finish her day. Later, I would pack my slippers, take the train, order my own car, sleep wherever I was put, receive the groceries, wait for the repairman, and tell everyone I was having a wonderful time. I looked at my gray box. "No," I said. "I don't think we are." Paige went quiet. I stood and carried the saucepan from the sink to the trash. The burned butter had cooled into a dark skin. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means I need to think. About Christmas. About whether I'm coming." "Oh, Mom." She sounded relieved, which hurt more than anger would have. "You're upset. I get it. We'll talk tomorrow when this doesn't feel so dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic. I didn't say you were. I said it feels dramatic. That is exactly the same thing in a better coat." Nathan laughed before he could stop himself. "Great," Paige said. "Now Nathan thinks this is funny." "I don't," he called. "Go put the leaf somewhere sensible," she told him. I closed the laptop. "We'll talk tomorrow," Paige said. "I love you. I love you too." That part was true. Unfortunately, so was everything else. We hung up. I stood in the dining room listening to the clock prepare itself for the wrong number of chimes. Then I opened the train company's website and pulled up my reservation. A red notice warned that my fare was non-refundable. For years, that would have been enough to decide me. I moved the cursor to cancel trip and held it there. I clicked it. The website asked whether I was sure. Then it asked whether I was really sure, as if the train company had appointed itself guardian of my emotional impulses. When I confirmed a second time, the ticket disappeared, and a credit of $0 appeared beneath a cheerful green checkmark. "Your trip has been canceled." It was the first definite statement anyone had made about my Christmas. The dining room clock struck 9, then 10, 11, 12, and 13. It was 7:46. "Show off," I told it. I took my slippers out of the suitcase and carried them back upstairs. The suitcase remained open on the hall bench, holding one blouse and a phone charger. I could have unpacked those too, but that felt like admitting I had canceled more than transportation. When I came back down, the cornbread was still everywhere. It had absorbed an entire day of my life already. Shopping, mixing, baking, cooling, cutting. I stood in the kitchen considering 12 cups of bread that had no idea it was involved in a family dispute. I put half in freezer bags. The rest I left on the sheet pans. Decisions made after 8 at night were often revenge wearing sensible shoes. At 8 the next morning, Paige sent me a picture of her dining room. The extension leaf had been installed, and the table now stretched nearly to the doorway. "Found it," she wrote. Crisis averted. I waited. A second message arrived. "How many pounds of cheese do you use for the straws?" Nathan bought 2, but that seems insane. Nothing about our call. I made coffee. I carried it to the little table by the front window, where a delivery truck was idling across the street. The driver got out, dropped a package on Mrs. Carter's porch, took a picture of it, and drove away. A full relationship completed in 40 seconds. I typed, "I canceled my ticket last night. I won't be coming for Christmas." The answer came so quickly that she must have been holding her phone. "Mom, come on." I put the phone face down. It rang. I let it ring twice before answering. "You canceled it?" Paige said. "Good morning. Your non-refundable ticket?" "Yes. Why would you do that because I'm not coming?" I understood the words. "I don't understand why you're acting like this." I looked into my coffee. Like what? Like I uninvited you. You put my visit on a list as optional. I explained that. You explained that the time we spend together is optional. You also explained that the room you offered me is optional. It is not optional. It's unresolved. I'm too old to travel 3 hours for an unresolved bed. We have 4 beds and 5 sets of people. No, we don't. We have... She stopped to count, which didn't strengthen her argument. We can figure it out. You have figured it out. You figured I would take whatever was left. That is not what happened. Then tell me what happened. I made a draft schedule. You sent it to 12 people. 9. Well, that's practically private. Mom, can you stop? I took a sip of coffee. It had gone bitter. Or perhaps I had. Stop what? Making little comments. I don't have a large comment ready. She breathed out hard. Fine. The wording was bad. I'll change it. To what? I don't know. Time with Mom. Happy. Does changing the box give me a bed? I said we'll work out the bed. Does it put me at lunch? Mom, does it mean I'm not sitting in your house waiting for a repairman while the rest of you go out? The dishwasher has to work for Christmas, I agree. One of the people who lives there should probably see to that. We have guests. So am I. That stopped her. Not because I had said anything brilliant, because she hadn't been thinking of me that way. When Paige finally spoke, her voice had softened into the tone she used when persuading customer service representatives to waive fees. You're not a guest, Mom. You're family. Apparently family is a guest who brings food and doesn't need a chair. That is so unfair, is it? Yes. You always help at Christmas. I do. You like helping. I used to think I was helping people who wanted me there. We do want you there, but not enough to know where I'll be. We just bought this house. We're hosting for the first time. I'm trying to make everyone happy, and you're choosing the worst possible moment to become high maintenance. The silence afterward was enormous. Paige heard it too. That came out wrong. No, I said. I think that one came out exactly right. I don't mean you're high maintenance. You mean I'm behaving badly because I finally require maintenance. Please don't twist it. I don't have to. She made a small, frustrated sound. What do you want me to do? Call Simon and tell him Monica has to sleep on a pullout that hurts her back? Tell Nathan's parents they can't come? Cancel Christmas Eve with our friends? No. Then what? I want you to have the Christmas you planned, but without you. That's how you planned it. I did not. Paige, I need to go. Why? Because I'm not enjoying this. Neither am I. Then we agree on something. I ended the call before she could respond. My hand shook afterward, which annoyed me. I had spoken to doctors about David's pain without shaking. I had signed forms I could barely see. Yet telling my own daughter I did not want to be treated like a folding chair made my fingers tremble against the coffee cup. At 9:30, Nathan texted, "I'm sorry the schedule upset you. We both want you here. There is always a place for you in our home." It was a kind message. It was also written by a man whose brother had my room. I answered, "Thank you, Nathan." At 10, Paige sent an updated schedule. The gray box was now gold. Time with Mom, flexible. I laughed so suddenly I snorted coffee through my nose. Flexible. She had changed the paint, not the wall. I forwarded the schedule to Diane with no explanation. She called before I had finished wiping the table. "What am I looking at?" she asked. "Christmas at Paige's. Who are Tessa and Jordan?" "Friends." "Why do they get cocktails for 2 hours while you get a flexible box?" "That's the current question. Is gray supposed to be your color? It's gold now." "Oh, good. They've upgraded your neglect." Diane could turn concern into a joke so quickly that people sometimes mistook her for cold. She wasn't. She simply disliked letting sorrow sit in the best chair. "What happened?" she asked. I told her. She listened without interrupting until I reached the part about the dishwasher repairman. Then she said, "Absolutely not. I already canceled." "The train?" "Yes." "Good, was it?" "Yes." I waited for her to say more. She didn't. "So," I said, "is Vermont still possible?" There was a pause long enough to make me wish I hadn't asked. "Oh, Helen, it's fine. Don't do that." "Do what?" "Say it's fine before I've even disappointed you." I stared out the window. The package was still on Mrs. Carter's porch. "We filled the room," Diane said. "After you said no, Malcolm invited his cousin and her wife. They booked their flights. I can ask if the inn has anything, but Christmas week, no, don't ask. You could come on the 26th. I might. That isn't the same. No. I wish you'd said yes the first time. So do I." Diane sighed. "You chose Paige. I thought she chose me too." The words escaped before I could dress them up. Diane went quiet. "Come after Christmas," she said. "Stay as long as you want. Not flexibly. I'll put it in ink." I smiled. "Thank you. And don't you dare make those cheese straws. I already bought the cheese. Eat it over the sink like a civilized person." After we hung up, I opened the refrigerator. 2 pounds did not look insane. Cheese had a way of appearing modest until you tried to button your pants. I was grating some onto scrambled eggs when Eric called. I answered with, "Did your sister assign you a time?" "Good morning to you too." My son had his father's dry voice and my habit of trying to sound calmer than he was. At 45, he still cleared his throat before saying anything he expected to be unpopular. "Paige called me," he said. I assumed. "She's upset." She called the correct number then. "Mom." "What would you like me to do about Paige being upset? Come for Christmas?" "No, that was fast. I've practiced." He was quiet. I could picture him in the apartment he shared with Leon, pacing between the kitchen counter and the window. Eric could not have a difficult conversation sitting down. "You know how she gets with hosting," he said. "I do. She plans everything until the plan becomes more important than the people. That's very insightful. I'm not defending her. You're calling to convince me to do what she wants. That's a creative way not to defend her. I'm trying to prevent a family disaster over a spreadsheet. It's not a disaster. You're skipping Christmas." "So?" "You've never skipped Christmas." That landed harder than anything Paige had said. Since Eric and Paige were adults with homes of their own, Christmas had changed addresses, menus, and seating arrangements, but I had always been there. Even the year David was sick, we had put a folding table beside his recliner and pretended eating ham at 2 p.m. was exactly what everyone preferred. "I know," I said. "What are you going to do instead?" "I haven't decided. You'll be alone?" "Possibly." He lowered his voice. "You hate being alone on holidays. I don't especially enjoy being useful and unwanted either. Nobody said unwanted. People rarely do. They usually say flexible." He let out a breath that might have been a laugh if the conversation belonged to someone else. "Leon and I are staying at a hotel," he said. "You can take our room. You don't have a room. We can give you our reservation. Then you'll sleep where? We'll figure it out." "There it is." "What?" Everyone believes a bed will appear if we keep passing the problem to the next person. It's a king room. I'm not taking your hotel room. It has free breakfast. Now you're just trying to seduce me." He laughed then, unwillingly. It made my throat tighten. "Think about it," he said. "I have. Think longer. I'll call you later. Promise?" "Yes." After he hung up, I ate my eggs standing at the counter. Diane's civilized method. By noon, Paige had sent 4 messages. The first said she had called the inn. The second said it was full. The third said Nathan could move his desk out of the office and they could put me on the pullout. The fourth said, "Can you at least send the silver pieces with Eric?" We planned the table around them. I went into the dining room and looked at the 3 pillowcase-wrapped shapes on the sideboard. I thought about the gold box, the rideshare note, the lunch reservation for 4, my certain groceries, an uncertain bed. Then I typed, "You can collect them after Christmas." Her answer arrived a minute later. "So now you're withholding things?" I touched the cool shape of the largest serving bowl through the fabric. "No," I wrote. "I'm withholding myself. The things just aren't traveling without me." Paige did not answer for 7 minutes. Then she wrote, "That may sound noble to you, but it's incredibly manipulative." I read the message twice. I placed the phone on the sideboard beside the silver. Then I picked it up again, typed 3 different responses, and deleted all of them. The first was angry. The second was too reasonable. The third sounded like something embroidered on a pillow. I sent nothing. That afternoon, Paige offered me the office pullout again. At 4, she found a hotel 28 minutes from the house, although the room available had 1 review that used the phrase, "moist carpet." At 6, she suggested I arrive Christmas morning instead of the 22nd. Each solution made my visit shorter, farther away, or less comfortable. None altered anything else on her schedule. I finally wrote, "I'm not asking you to solve this now. I'm telling you I'm not coming." She replied, "You're not giving me a chance." I had given her 42 years. That felt melodramatic even inside my own head, so I kept it there. I spent the next morning packing the dried cornbread into freezer bags. As I sealed the last one, I remembered David standing in that kitchen years earlier, pretending to help while eating the ingredients. "You can't tell the difference," he'd said with his mouth full. "There are 6 pieces missing. No jury would convict." Paige had been on the phone in the dining room, laughing with someone, and Eric had been opening cabinets in search of a platter he claimed had vanished. The kitchen had felt too small for all of us. Now I had enough counter space to perform surgery. I labeled the bags, stacked them in the freezer, and shut the door. The refrigerator held the cheese, cranberries, celery, fresh sage, 2 pounds of butter, and a jar of chestnuts that had cost $9 because I'd waited too long to buy them. My canceled Christmas had excellent ingredients. Just before noon, the doorbell rang. Eric stood on the porch holding a white paper bag. Leon was behind him with a cardboard tray containing 3 coffees. "I brought lunch," Eric said. "I didn't invite you. That's why I brought better food than you would have offered me." Leon lifted the coffees. And I brought diplomatic support. Leon was 50, lean, and unfailingly well-dressed, even when delivering sandwiches. He wore a dark wool coat and a rust-colored scarf tied in a way that would have looked theatrical on anyone else. On him, it looked necessary. I stepped aside. Eric kissed my cheek and immediately looked past me toward the hall, as if expecting to find evidence of a breakdown. His eyes stopped on the open suitcase. "You haven't put that away." "I've been busy staring into space." I didn't say anything. "You have your father's eyebrows. You rarely need to." Leon handed me a coffee. I told him not to arrive with his crisis face. "This is my normal face," Eric said. "It's not. Your normal face is mildly disappointed. This is colonoscopy results." I laughed despite myself and led them into the kitchen. The bag contained turkey sandwiches, potato chips, and 3 enormous cookies. Eric began clearing a place at the table, shifting a stack of mail and the grocery circular I had marked, before remembering I no longer needed a 16-pound turkey. "We're not here to gang up on you," he said. "You brought a witness." I brought Leon because you like him. That's true. Leon took off his scarf. I'm also more persuasive. That is not why you're here, Eric said. It's why Paige called me separately. I looked at him. Paige called you? Last night. Eric stopped arranging napkins. You didn't tell me that. She asked me not to. And yet you just did. I didn't agree. That was Leon. He obeyed exact language and very little else. What did she want? I asked. She wanted me to convince Eric to convince you. Eric sat down heavily. Why does everyone think I'm this easy to operate? Leon and I looked at him. All right, he said. Forget I asked. We unwrapped the sandwiches. Mine had mustard on only one half, which was how I liked it. Eric had remembered. Small attentions were dangerous when you were trying to remain angry with someone. He waited until I had taken 2 bites. Paige is changing the arrangements, he said. So I hear. Simon and Monica will leave Christmas morning. Does Monica's back know? That's not the point. It seemed to be the point yesterday. Mom, they're trying. After I canceled. Yes. Because you canceled, so the only way to be considered was to refuse to come. Leon bit into a potato chip and studied the table. Eric said, Sometimes people don't realize there's a problem until you force them to see it. I don't want to force my daughter to make room for me. Then what do you want? I wanted her to make room before she invited me. He leaned back. For a while, the only sounds were paper crinkling and Leon's extremely thorough chewing. Leon never rushed food. He treated a sandwich as if it had traveled a long distance to meet him. You always say you don't care where you sleep, Eric said. I didn't think that meant I had to prove it every holiday. You slept on our couch last Easter. You and Leon have a 1-bedroom apartment. There wasn't another option. You said you were comfortable. I lied. Leon looked offended. That couch cost more than my first car. It tilts toward the radiator. That is a feature. Winter lumbar support. Eric smiled, then grew serious again. You also always ask what you can do. I do. Sometimes before you take your coat off. I was raised badly. I'm saying Paige may genuinely believe helping is what you want. She does believe that, because you taught us that. The words were gentle, which gave them more force. I set down my sandwich. There were moments when being a mother meant seeing your worst habits return, wearing your children's faces. I had made usefulness look like love, because usefulness was easier to measure. A clean kitchen, a full table, an ironed shirt, those things stayed where you put them. Affection wandered off and got distracted. When your father was alive, I said, Did you think he was invited because he washed dishes? No. Did you think he had to earn his chair? That's not what I meant. I know. But you're right about part of it. Eric waited. I did teach you I would take care of myself, I said. I did say I didn't mind things I minded. That was my mistake. I'm trying to stop making it, by not coming at all. Yes, that feels like a large correction. I'm late. Late corrections often are. Leon dabbed mustard from his thumb with a napkin. For what it's worth, I thought the schedule was rude. Eric turned to him. You said it was careless. It can be both. You also said Mom was reacting from grief. I said this is the first Christmas she's coming to terms with being treated as one person instead of half of a couple. My throat tightened. Leon, Eric said, what? We're adults. If we can't say the thing, we shouldn't arrive with sandwiches and pretend carbohydrates are therapy. I looked at the table, at the scratches near the sugar bowl. David's chair was to my right. I had not consciously preserved it, but no one else ever chose it. When David was alive, he made demands I would never have made. He wanted the room away from the stairs. He wanted dinner before 7. He would tell Paige, Your mother needs to sit down when I was still carrying dishes. I used to find it annoying. Without him, everyone had accepted my insistence that I needed nothing. The schedule hurt, I said, but it wasn't the first thing. Eric's expression changed. Last August, I said, Paige invited me to that restaurant for my birthday. She arrived 40 minutes late, took 2 work calls, and left before dessert because Tessa needed help choosing paint. I didn't know that. She sent me flowers the next day. You said the flowers were beautiful. They were. And you told me dinner was nice. It was nice until she left. Why didn't you say that? Because your father used to make every disappointment into a federal case, and after he died, I thought the kind thing was to expect less. Leon's hand rested flat around his coffee cup. Eric looked miserable. We would have listened. Would you? Yes. You're here to persuade me to go to Paige's house. He looked away. I finished half my sandwich and wrapped the rest. Eric did not mention Christmas again until they were putting on their coats. If you change your mind, he said, the hotel offer stands. I know. And you can come just for dinner. Leon and I will drive you. That's 6 hours in the car for 1 meal. We've done dumber things. Leon nodded. We once drove to Rhode Island for a lamp. It was a very good lamp. It was haunted. The bulb was loose. I hugged them both. Eric held on longer than usual. At the door, Leon looked back at the suitcase. Put that away. I thought you were diplomatic support. I've changed departments. After they left, I carried the suitcase upstairs and slid it beneath my bed. The blouse went back into the closet. The charger stayed in my purse because there were limits to organization. That evening, Nathan called. I'm not trying to pressure you, he began. Everyone says that immediately before applying pressure. Fair. He sounded tired. I heard a cabinet close in the background. Paige is upstairs, he said. She doesn't know I'm calling. I'm not going to conspire against my daughter. Neither am I. Then why are we speaking secretly? Because she's embarrassed. About what? The schedule. How it looked. Or what it revealed. He was quiet. Nathan was 44 and normally careful with words. He worked in commercial insurance, though I never entirely understood what he insured. Buildings, perhaps. The idea that he spent his days measuring risks suited him. She didn't mean to diminish you, he said. I believe that. You do? Yes. That's what worries me. He breathed out slowly. I should have caught it, he said. I saw the schedule before she sent it. You saw that line? Yes. And what did you think? I thought she meant the time the two of you would spend alone. That's what she says. I didn't think about how it sounded. Did you think about where I would sleep? Another pause. We were still working that out. Did you think I knew that? No. The honesty surprised me. Nathan, I care about you, I said. I know hosting is difficult. I know your family has needs, but everyone made plans around those needs and expected me to absorb the leftovers. You're right. I sat straighter. Does Paige know you think that? No. Then telling me doesn't help. I know. Upstairs, a pipe knocked twice. The house had made that sound for 26 years. David always said he would fix it. Nathan said, She thinks if she apologizes now, it means you were right to cancel. Those are separate things. I know that too. You know quite a lot in secret. He laughed softly, without humor. Before we hung up, he asked, Should I come get the silver? No. She's worried the table will look unfinished. Then the table will have to develop resilience. The next morning, an email from Paige went to the entire Christmas group. Due to unexpected changes, she wrote, Simon and Monica could keep their original travel plans. The grocery delivery had been moved. The dishwasher appointment was canceled. Everyone should bring one dish because certain menu items would no longer be available. The final sentence read, Unfortunately, Mom has decided not to join us this year. My phone began ringing before I reached the bottom. The caller was Beverly. Helen, are you ill? No, thank God. She lowered her voice. Paige's email sounded ominous. I'm sorry it worried you. Frank said not to call, but he thinks silence is appropriate for every occasion except football. In the background, Frank said something. Beverly covered the phone poorly. She's fine, I told you. I can hear him. He knows that. Frank called. Good. Beverly returned to her normal volume. What happened? I considered lying. Not the elaborate kind, just enough to close the door. There was some confusion about the sleeping arrangements. Oh, that. You can have our room." "No." "Why not?" "Because it's your room. We don't need to stay at the house." Frank wakes up at 5 and wanders around looking for coffee. A hotel is safer for everyone. Frank said, "Also television." "He needs television," Beverly explained, "so he can fall asleep while insisting he's watching it." "I'm not taking your room." "You wouldn't be taking it." "I'm offering it." "That's kind of you, but the room isn't the whole issue." "What's the rest?" I looked at Paige's email on the laptop. Unfortunately, Mom has decided. I'd rather not drag everyone into it. Well, Paige dragged me a little. "Yes. She said you were upset about the schedule." "She told you that?" "She called last night to ask whether we could arrive later on the 22nd. Then she asked whether we would mind skipping lunch on the 23rd. Then Nathan called back and said to disregard both questions." I closed my eyes. "Young marriage," Beverly said. "A lot of activity after dark. They've been married 14 years. It can stay young if you avoid learning the same lessons." Despite myself, I smiled. Beverly was not an easy woman, but she was often a funny one. She liked firm mattresses, hot coffee, and knowing where she was supposed to be at all times. Paige admired those preferences when Beverly expressed them. When I expressed one, Paige asked what was really wrong. "I'm not coming," I said. "Please don't change your plans." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "All right." That quick acceptance pinched more than I expected. Then Beverly added, "I think Paige counts on you so completely that she sometimes forgets counting is an action." I sat very still. "She loves you," Beverly said. "I know." "That doesn't make her considerate." "No. And Frank says your stuffing is the only reason he agreed to stay 5 nights. Frank called. "Not the only reason. The main reason. Top 3. I laughed. After we hung up, I had 2 missed calls and 5 messages. Simon offered to leave Christmas morning. Monica said she could bring an air mattress, though no one had asked her to sleep on one. Tessa sent a red heart and the words, "Hope everything is okay." Jordan apparently believed a thumbs up was an appropriate response to my absence. Eric called next. "Do not reply all," I said. "I haven't said hello. You're considering it." I drafted something. Delete it. "She made it sound like you canceled because the cranberry delivery changed." I know. She used "unfortunately." I saw. "That word should require a permit." Eric. "Fine. I won't send it. Thank you. But you need to call her. I'm going to." "When?" "When my blood pressure stops having its own weather." "Good. Call me after. I'm not reporting to you. I didn't say report. You said call me after." "All right, don't call. I'll call you. You're exhausting. That's hereditary." I waited another hour before dialing Paige. I folded laundry first. There was something calming about pairing socks while preparing for conflict. No matter what happened, at least the socks had found one another. Paige answered on the first ring. "I'm at work," she said. "Then I can call later." "No. Say what you called to say. Why did you send that email?" "Because the plans changed." "The plans changed because I'm not coming. You made it sound like I disrupted Christmas without explanation. What did you want me to write?" "Due to an ongoing dispute over Mom's accommodations, please bring your own stuffing." You could have told them we had a disagreement that would invite questions. They're already calling me. Then tell them whatever you want. I don't want to put our argument on display, but you want me to announce that I mistreated you. I didn't ask you to announce anything. You canceled. Food, groceries, the repair appointment, everything had to be moved. People needed to know. Why did the repair appointment have to be canceled? Because no one will be home. You and Nathan live there. We have work. You scheduled it knowing you had work. I scheduled it knowing you would be there. The sentence struck both of us at the same time. Paige recovered first. "Because you agreed to help. I agreed to come for Christmas. You said the repair window was fine. I said that before I learned the rest of my visit was conditional. It wasn't conditional. My bed was. We fixed that. What did you fix? Simon and Monica are leaving Christmas morning. They don't need to. You wanted the room. I wanted you to know I needed one before you invited me. What is the difference now? The difference is I had to cancel before you took me seriously. You canceled before giving me one day to fix it. I asked you about it. And I explained. You defended it. What was I supposed to do? Drop everything and apologize because you interpreted a phrase in the most hurtful possible way? I opened my mouth and closed it again. Paige continued. Faster now. You have the blue room. Nathan will pick you up. The grocery delivery is moved. The dishwasher appointment is canceled. I changed the schedule. What else do you want? I don't know. Exactly. Her voice cracked on the word, so slightly I could have pretended it didn't. This doesn't feel like you're trying to solve anything, she said. It feels like you want me to chase you. That isn't fair. Neither is canceling and then refusing every solution. I already lost the fare. I'll buy another ticket. That's not the point. Then tell me the point, Mom. I could not find a sentence that didn't sound childish. I wanted you to want me. I wanted my place to exist before I complained. I wanted to be more important than a dishwasher. The point is that the schedule wasn't the problem, I said. It showed me the problem. What problem? How you see me. Oh, please. That. What? That sound you just made. I'm at work and my mother is asking me to defend how I see her based on a spreadsheet. It's easier when you call it a spreadsheet. What would you call it? An honest mistake. She gave one sharp laugh. Whose? Yours when you sent it. Mine for pretending it was new. There was silence. I heard voices in the distance at her end, then a door closing. What else have I done? She asked. Her tone was challenging, but something underneath it sounded afraid. I could have mentioned my birthday, the canceled dinners, the lunches spent watching her phone, the times she asked me to come early and forgot to introduce me to the people who arrived later. Instead, I said, "This isn't a conversation I want to have while you're at work. You brought it up while I'm at work." I asked about the email. Fine. The email was logistical. I'm sorry people called you. I'll tell them to stop. That will make it much better. You can't criticize my tone while speaking to me like that. She was right. I'm sorry, I said. Paige went quiet again. I am, I said. That was unkind. Thank you. But I'm still not coming. Her breath left slowly. Then I don't know what we're doing. Neither do I. She ended the call first. I stood in my bedroom with a matched pair of socks in each hand. The satisfaction I expected from holding my ground did not arrive. There was no warmth, no surge of dignity, just a dull pressure behind my ribs and the humiliating desire to call her back. I put the laundry away instead. At 3, Tessa called. I nearly ignored it. Then I remembered her red heart and answered. Hi, Helen. I hope this isn't intrusive. It probably is, but go ahead. She laughed nervously. Fair. Paige told me not to call. That appears to be encouraging everyone. I wanted to make sure this wasn't about August. My hand stopped on the refrigerator door. What about August? Your birthday lunch. I closed the refrigerator without taking anything out. What do you know about that? Paige left to help me with paint samples. I know. I didn't know she was leaving your lunch. She told me you'd finished. We hadn't ordered dessert. Oh. Tessa was quiet long enough that I could hear traffic through her car speaker. I'm sorry, she said. I wouldn't have asked her to come. You asked your friend for help. That isn't your fault. She said you didn't care about birthdays. I leaned against the counter. I don't care about presents, I said. That's not the same. No. Tessa took a breath. Paige says you always understand. I usually do. That might be the problem. Hearing Beverly suggest it had felt comforting. Hearing Tessa say it felt like humiliation. 2 women outside my family had noticed a pattern I had spent years disguising from myself. Have you told Paige that? I asked. No. Then you should. I don't want her to think I'm taking sides. Neither do I. Tessa was silent. I'm sorry, she said again. After the call, I stood in front of the open freezer and stared at the bags of cornbread. I had gone there for ice, though I no longer remembered why. At the bottom of the mail on the kitchen table was the town newsletter. A red flyer slid out when I picked it up. Christmas Day Community Supper. Guests, volunteers, and good appetites welcome. I had received the same flyer for 3 years and thrown it away each time. The supper was held in the recreation hall, where the lighting made everyone look recently awakened from surgery. I had privately considered it an event for people with nowhere better to go. I read it again. Then I placed it under the refrigerator magnet that held my canceled train confirmation. The flyer stayed on the refrigerator for 2 days before I called the number. A woman named Marlene answered in the middle of eating something crunchy. "I'd like to volunteer for the Christmas supper," I said. Crunch. "What shift? What do you have?" "Nothing." "I'm sorry. All the volunteer shifts are full. We filled the last one yesterday. That's wonderful." "It's a miracle," she said. "In November, I have to threaten people. By December 20th, everybody suddenly wants to demonstrate character." I looked at the flyer. "Do you need food?" "No outside food." "Insurance." "I can cook in your kitchen." "Kitchen's full." "I could set tables." "Full." "Clean afterward?" "Very full." Nobody wants to make conversation, so cleanup goes first. I understood that. Marlene crunched again. "Do you want a seat? As a guest?" "That's generally how seats work. I don't want to take one from someone who needs it. We have 80 chairs and 56 names. Still." "What do you think happens to the unused chairs? I assume you stack them." "Exactly. Heartbreaking." I smiled in spite of myself. "Come eat," she said. "If somebody drops a spoon, you can pick it up and feel useful. I'll think about it." "That means no. It means I'll think." "Fine. What's your name?" I hesitated. Marlene said, "Thinking doesn't require anonymity. Helen Mercer." "All right, Helen Mercer. Now you have a seat. You can think while occupying it." She took my telephone number and told me the doors opened at noon. The meal began at 1, although Marlene said anyone who expected 1 o'clock to mean 1 o'clock had misunderstood both holidays and large pots of gravy. After we hung up, I nearly called back to remove my name. Instead, I took the flyer down and wrote noon beside the date. The words looked strangely formal in my handwriting. She sent one practical message asking whether the chestnuts were essential to the stuffing. I answered that they were not. She replied with a thumbs up. Nothing about my train, the blue room, or my birthday. The wrapped presents remained in the hall. Nathan's was a leather tool roll he had admired in October and refused to buy because, according to him, the tools did not care what they slept in. Paige's was a pair of heavy green ceramic mugs from a small shop in Vermont. She had picked one up during a weekend with me, held it in both hands, and said it felt like a mug you'd cancel things for. At the time, I had laughed. I considered mailing everything. Then I saw what 2-day shipping cost and recovered emotionally. Eric agreed to stop by on the 23rd. He arrived with Leon and 3 reusable grocery bags, though the gifts required only 1. "The other bags are defensive," Leon said as he came through the door. "Your son thinks you'll give us food. I have 2 pounds of cheese. That's why we brought 3. Eric took off his coat. "How are you?" "Fine." Leon closed his eyes. "What?" I asked. "You said it." "I'm actually fine. There should be a verification process." I showered. I slept. I spoke to another person today. "Who?" Eric asked. "The pharmacist." "What did you discuss?" "My prescription. That barely qualifies." I pointed toward the dining room. "The gifts are in there." Eric followed me. The silver pieces were still on the sideboard, but I had put the wrapped gifts on the table. There were packages for Eric and Leon, too, along with a small envelope for each. Eric counted. "That's all?" "Were you expecting livestock?" "I meant food." "I froze the cornbread. And the cheese straws?" "I'm not making them." He gave the serving pieces a sideways glance. "Paige asked me not to bring up the silver. She asked you because she knew you'd be here. She assumed." "Did you tell her you were coming?" "Yes. So she asked you not to bring it up in the hope that you would bring it up." Leon picked up his present and shook it beside his ear. "Don't," I said. "It's soft. It could still explode." Eric ignored us. "She said she doesn't want another fight." "Neither do I." "She also said the table is already set. Then she doesn't need the silver. The centerpiece is too large. That seems like an independent problem." Leon put down his package. I saw a photograph. "Of the table?" Paige sent it to Eric at 11 last night. Eric frowned. Why are you narrating my phone? Because you're omitting useful evidence. What did the table look like? I asked. Leon considered. Ambitious. Crowded, Eric said. She has place cards. Of course she does. Yours is still there. I looked at him. She hasn't removed it, he said. Why not? She thinks you'll change your mind, does she? I think she hopes you will. Hope was softer than expectation. It got in under the door. I won't, I said. Eric placed the gifts into a bag. I don't understand how both of you can be this stubborn. I learned from her. She learned from you. Then there's your answer. He turned toward the hall, then stopped. Leon and I are leaving our hotel at 10 on Christmas morning. If you decide to come, call us before then. I won't. Call anyway. And say what? Merry Christmas. Ask about the haunted lamp. I don't care. His irritation was close to fear. That changed mine. I touched his arm. I'll call. Before 10? Before 10. He nodded. Leon remained by the table while Eric carried the first bag outside. He picked up one of the pillowcase-wrapped pieces and set it down again. What? I asked. Nothing. You're incapable of doing nothing that visibly. He leaned against the sideboard. I think Eric wants you to come because he doesn't want to choose where to stand. I haven't asked him to choose. I know. Paige has. How? By treating attendance as agreement. I did not like that because it sounded accurate. I don't want this to become teams, I said. It already is. The best you can do is refuse a uniform. Eric returned, and Leon immediately asked where we should put the cheese. I divided it into freezer bags while both men complained that freezing good cheddar was a crime. I made them take the fresh sage, too. On Christmas Eve morning, I woke at 6:13 to the sound of David's clock striking 7. I stayed in bed and listened to the extra chime. For 37 years, Christmas Eve had begun with a list. David made the coffee while I checked the refrigerator, the oven schedule, and the serving dishes. Paige called before 9 with a question she could have answered herself. Eric arrived missing something he had promised to bring. The day rushed forward until I sat down at dinner and realized I had not tasted anything I cooked. That morning, there was no list. I made toast. I read the newspaper all the way through, including an article about municipal drainage. At 9, I took a walk and discovered that cold air felt colder when nobody was expecting you home. The neighborhood was quiet. Through windows, I could see people carrying bowls, moving chairs, bending over tables. At the corner, a man was attempting to tie an artificial wreath to the front of a sedan. He caught me watching. My wife said this would be festive, he said. Your wife is not out here. She's management. I held the wreath while he tightened the cord. He thanked me as if I had performed surgery. When I returned, there was a small box on the porch. Inside was a loaf of lemon bread from Beverly and Frank. The card said, "For breakfast, wherever you eat it." I carried it into the kitchen and cried so abruptly that I almost dropped it. I had not cried when I canceled the train. I had not cried during the calls or while moving my slippers upstairs. Kindness did what anger couldn't. I sat at the kitchen table with the box in my lap and let the tears come until my nose ran and the absurdity of wiping it on Beverly's tasteful holiday tissue made me laugh. At 11, Paige called. I watched her name until the last ring and answered. "Hi," she said. "Hi, did the bread arrive?" "It did." "You arranged that?" "I gave Beverly your address." "She has my address. She couldn't find it." "Of course." The conversation sagged. Finally, Paige said, "I'm about to start the stuffing." "All right. How much broth?" "It depends on the bread." "The recipe says 4 cups. Then start with 3. Why does it say 4? "Because your father wrote it down while I was cooking, and he believed precision was a moral virtue. Is that his card?" "Yes." I pictured it in her kitchen, stained at the corners. David's block printing crowded between my faded notes. Paige had asked to keep the recipe card after he died. I said yes because recipes seemed meant to travel. "What does 'until it looks right' mean?" she asked. It means until it looks right. Very helpful. You'll know. No, I won't. That's the problem. A cabinet slammed at her end. Are you using the chestnuts? I asked. Beverly hates chestnuts. I thought Frank liked them. He does. They've been married 48 years and still can't agree on food. That may be why they've lasted. She laughed once. For several minutes, we talked about onions, broth, and whether the mixture should rest before baking. We sounded almost normal. The relief was so strong I could have mistaken it for repair. Then Paige said, "If you came this afternoon, Nathan could get you." My hand tightened around the phone. "No, you'd have the blue room. Simon and Monica are in the office." Paige, "I'm just telling you. You called about the stuffing." I called because I thought maybe enough time had passed. For what? For you to stop needing to prove this. The kitchen went still around me. I'm not trying to prove anything. You made your point. Everyone knows I screwed up. The whole week has revolved around whether you're coming. Then you know what it feels like to have your Christmas organized around someone else. That's cruel. You're right. She stopped. "I'm sorry," I said. "That was cruel. Do you enjoy being right now?" "No. Could have fooled me." A voice called her name in the background. Paige answered. 1 minute. Then she said to me, "I have to go. I know. Merry Christmas, Mom." The words sounded formal, as if she had written them on a card for someone at work. "Merry Christmas, Paige." She hung up. At 3, while her schedule said cocktails with Tessa and Jordan, I set one place at my kitchen table. I sliced Beverly's lemon bread and put butter on it. I opened a bottle of wine, poured a glass, and placed my phone face down. I had expected standing up for myself to feel powerful. Instead, I ate Christmas Eve dinner in the wrong room because the dining room table looked too large. I left the plate in the sink until morning. This was not a decision. It was one plate. It did not require a decision. Still, seeing it there when I came downstairs felt like evidence that no one else had entered the house during the night to continue my life for me. I washed it, made coffee, and opened the curtains. Christmas morning was painfully beautiful. Blue sky, hard white sunlight, frost bright on every roof. The wreath sedan was gone from across the street. Either the man's wife had approved his work or the wreath had escaped. At 8:20, Diane called from Vermont. "We're making pancakes," she said. "You don't make pancakes. Malcolm is making pancakes. I'm supervising." In the background, Malcolm called, "She's criticizing." "I hear competence makes you defensive," I said. "Exactly," Diane told him. She asked what I had eaten the night before. I told her about Beverly's lemon bread, but not about crying into the tissue paper. "And today?" she asked. "I have somewhere to go." There was a beat. "Where?" "The community supper." "Oh." The word came out too carefully. "Don't make it sound tragic." I didn't. "You made one syllable tragic. I'm glad you're going. I haven't gone yet. You said you have somewhere to go. That isn't the same as arriving." "Go, Helen." "I intend to. Wear lipstick." "Why?" "So you can pretend it was social." We talked until Malcolm announced that the first pancake had become structurally unsound. After we hung up, I showered, put on black slacks and a red sweater, then added lipstick out of spite. At 9:48, I called Eric. He answered with, "You're coming? Merry Christmas to you, too." "Oh," he recovered. "Merry Christmas, Mom," Leon called from farther away. "Merry Christmas." There were sounds of drawers closing and a zipper being dragged around a suitcase corner. "Are you checking out?" I asked. "Trying to." Leon packed 6 shirts for 2 nights. "One needs options," Leon said. Eric lowered his voice. "We can be at your house in 40 minutes. "No, we're leaving at 10. "I remember. Last chance." "I'm not waiting for a last chance. I'm drinking coffee." He sighed. "Don't do that," I said. "Don't make me comfort you because I'm not changing my mind. I wasn't asking for comfort." You sighed directly into the phone. I breathed, like a disappointed accordion. Leon laughed in the background. Eric said, "What are you doing today?" "I'm going to a community supper." What community? The one I live in. I didn't know there was a supper, neither did I, officially. Will you know anyone? Possibly. That was not true, but I wanted him to get in his car and go to his sister's house without imagining me sitting under a bare light bulb with a can of soup. Call me later, he said. I will. Promise? Yes? Okay. He hesitated. Paige is having a rough morning. Why? The stuffing. I closed my eyes. What happened to it? I don't know. She texted that it's dry. Tell her to add warm broth around the edges, cover it, and put it back in for 15 minutes. Tell her yourself. She didn't ask me. She may be afraid to. Then you tell her. Mom, the broth needs to be warm. He muttered something. What? I said this family is impossible. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Merry Christmas. At 11:30, I put on my coat. At 11:37, I took it off because arriving before the doors opened suggested an enthusiasm I did not feel. At 11:50, I put it on again. The recreation hall was 6 minutes from my house. I spent 11 minutes driving there, circling the block once and sitting through a green light because I was busy examining the parking lot. More cars were arriving. Adults stepped out carrying nothing. That detail unsettled me. I had almost brought a pie despite being specifically told not to bring food. Walking into a meal empty-handed felt like appearing at the airport without identification. Through the glass doors, I saw folding chairs, long tables, red plastic cloths, and the lighting I remembered. Everyone did look recently awakened from surgery. I kept driving. At the next corner, I turned right, then right again. By the third right, I was circling the building like a suspicious aircraft. I pulled into the lot and parked. A woman in a sequined Santa hat stood just inside the entrance, holding a clipboard. She looked at me over red-framed glasses. Helen Mercer? How did you know? You have the face of someone who called to volunteer and is now disappointed we won't let her. Marlene? That's me. She checked my name. You're at table 6. I can help if anyone failed to show. No, I see empty chairs. Those are for sitting. Your door is pulling cold air. It's a door. That's its field. A man walking behind me dropped a spoon from a bundle of silverware. It bounced once. I bent, picked it up, and handed it to him. Marlene nodded. There, useful. Now go eat. Table 6 was half full. An older couple sat at one end arguing quietly about whether they had locked their car. Across from them was a broad-shouldered man with white hair, a green plaid shirt, and a paper name tag that said Warren in handwriting large enough to read from another county. He looked familiar. I removed my coat. Helen Mercer, he said. Warren? Good. I was worried I'd have to explain myself. Warren Daly had lived 3 houses down from us for almost 15 years. He and his wife, Carol, moved into a condominium after she got sick. I had attended her memorial 2 years earlier, spoken to Warren for perhaps 4 minutes, and then done what people often do after funerals. I assumed grief had a support staff. You look the same, I said. I look like my own father. Your father had darker hair. He's dead. I've caught up. I sat beside him. What are you doing here? I asked. Eating. I gathered that. What are you doing here? Apparently the same. He smiled. Before I could decide how much truth to offer, volunteers began carrying out platters. Turkey, ham, potatoes, green beans, rolls, stuffing, and a bowl of cranberry sauce still shaped like the can. The older woman at our table whispered, "Proper," when she saw it. Marlene welcomed everyone, made a brief speech about neighbors, and warned us that the coffee was an aspiration. Then the room filled with the sounds of serving spoons, striking dishes, and adults insisting they did not need the last roll while reaching for it. Warren put a mound of stuffing on his plate. My daughter invited me, he said. To this? To her house. And you came here instead? I'm going there at 4. 2 Christmas dinners? I planned poorly. He poured gravy over everything, including the cranberry sauce. She wanted me for 3 nights, he said. Then her husband's sister decided to stay. My daughter called and said, "Dad, if you're up to it, maybe just come for dinner." The phrase pressed against a tender place. "What did you say?" I said, "Fine." "Did you mean it?" "No." That's why I said it so quickly. I looked at him. He shrugged. If I'd paused, she might have heard me. The older couple asked for the potatoes, and we passed dishes in silence. After a while, Warren said, "It's not that they don't love me. No, they do. They want me there. But they want me there without having to put me anywhere." I laughed before I could stop myself. "That sounds familiar," I said. He pointed his fork at me. "You too? My daughter invited me for 5 nights and forgot to guarantee one. That's efficient. She sent a schedule. Dangerous. My visit was marked, 'If time allows.'" Warren lowered his fork. "You're kidding. I wish I were. So you didn't go?" "No. Good. Everyone keeps telling me that as if it feels good. It doesn't. No." He ate another bite. "Carol would have gone," he said. "She could turn being insulted into a casserole before anyone noticed. I used to admire that about her. And now? Now I wonder how many times she was angry while I was admiring her attitude." I looked down at my plate. The stuffing was too salty. The turkey was dry near the edges and perfect in the middle. Nobody had peeled the strings from the celery in the salad, and nothing terrible happened. "My husband used to complain for both of us," I said. "Convenient. I thought it was exhausting. It can be both. He died 4 years ago." Warren nodded. "Carol, too. We did not say we were sorry." There were situations where the words had been worn smooth. At dessert, Marlene placed a slice of pecan pie in front of me and said, "See? Not fatal. I haven't tasted the coffee. That's why I like you." My phone lit with messages while we ate. Beverly sent a picture of Frank holding a serving spoon over a pan of stuffing. Simon sent a photograph of the table. The silver had been replaced with white ceramic bowls. Paige's centerpiece was indeed too large. My place card was gone. I zoomed in to be sure. Warren glanced over. "Bad news? No? Then stop examining it like evidence." I put the phone down. "Your family?" he asked. "Yes." He showed me a photograph his daughter had sent. A long table, candles, smiling adults leaning toward the camera. "They look happy," I said. "They are happy. That's the irritating part. You want them to suffer one tasteful amount, just enough to notice. Exactly." I laughed so hard that the older couple looked at us. The meal ended a little after 3. Warren left for his daughter's house carrying a foil-wrapped piece of pie he claimed was an emergency provision. We exchanged phone numbers without promising to use them. At home, I hung my coat in the hall and looked at the place where the gifts had been. The house was quiet, but it no longer felt like it was holding its breath. Nathan texted at 8:14. "Merry Christmas, Helen. We missed you." The stuffing recovered. I answered, "I'm glad. Merry Christmas." Paige did not call. At 11:30, I checked my phone once more and hated myself for checking. There were no new messages. I switched off the kitchen light. Upstairs, David's clock began chiming midnight 4 minutes late. This time, it stopped at 12. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:12. I reached for it too quickly, saw Eric's name, and was ashamed of the small drop in my chest. "You're up early," I said. "We're driving home. Is Leon awake?" A voice from the passenger seat said, "Against my principles." Eric's car hummed beneath his words. "How was the supper?" he asked. "Good. Just good." The turkey was dry at the edges, the coffee was dangerous, and I sat with Warren Daly. "Mr. Daly from down the street? He hasn't lived down the street in years. He's still Mr. Daly from down the street. He has a daughter?" "Yes." "How come I never knew that? You were raised to believe adults began at 40 and arrived without prior history." Leon said I was raised Catholic. Same thing, but with more candles. I smiled and carried the phone downstairs. "How was Paige's?" I asked. "Good. Just good. You did that on purpose. I learned from the best." He was quiet for a moment. "Dinner was late." "How late?" 7:30. That's not late. It was scheduled for 6. Then it was a catastrophe. Frank ate enough cheese to remain alive. I opened the curtains. The morning was gray and the frost had vanished. Did the stuffing recover? Yes. You saved it from a distance. Was the table all right? The table was a table. Leon said it was ambitious. It calmed down after Paige removed the centerpiece. When? After Monica knocked over her wine trying to pass the rolls. I pictured Paige lifting the arrangement away with the fixed smile she used when an inconvenience had witnesses. Was she upset? I asked. About the wine? About any of it? Mom, it's a question. She was upset that you weren't there. Did she say so? She didn't have to. That answer annoyed me because Paige used it too. Eric continued. Everyone left earlier than she expected. Tessa and Jordan had another thing. Simon and Monica wanted to get on the road. Beverly and Frank went upstairs before 10. They were staying there. Where else would they go? You know what I mean. I did. And you? I asked. We stayed until 11. Nathan was cleaning the kitchen. Was Paige helping? She was sitting at the table. Something in the way he said it made me stop. Alone? We were still there. That isn't what I asked. Yes, alone. The picture arrived without permission. Paige at the long table beneath the lights she had chosen. Place cards bent beside used glasses. The evening emptied according to schedule. I wanted to feel vindicated. Instead, I saw her at 8 years old refusing to leave the school stage after a dance recital because she thought David had missed her bow. He had seen it. He was simply in the lobby looking for his coat. She'll be all right, Eric said. I know. You don't have to fix it. I know. I heard Leon murmur something. What did he say? He said I sound like a pamphlet. He's right. I'm trying. You are. Eric hesitated. Call her. She didn't call me. She thinks you don't want to hear from her. Did she tell you that? No. Then perhaps the family should stop interpreting us to each other. That would eliminate 70% of our conversations. Drive safely. Call her. Goodbye, Eric. I did not call. At 10, Warren sent a message. Survived second dinner. Pie provision unnecessary but emotionally supportive. I wrote, congratulations. He answered, daughter asked why I ate before coming. Told her hunger operates independently of invitations. Conversation ongoing. I laughed. Then Paige texted, I need to pick up the silver. Tomorrow morning, okay? I considered reminding her that she had been free to collect it after Christmas, not that I had agreed to prepare it like curbside merchandise. Instead, I wrote, 10 is fine. She arrived at 9:34. I saw her through the front window, coming up the walk in the camel-colored sweater under an open black coat. She carried a shopping bag in one hand and my wrapped present in the other. Her hair was twisted into a loose knot. Paige normally wore mascara to take out the recycling. That morning, there were shadows beneath her eyes. You're early, I said when I opened the door. I thought traffic would be worse. She stepped inside without hugging me. The hall seemed to narrow around us. Her gaze moved to the space beneath the coat hooks where the suitcase had been. I brought your present, she said. You didn't have to drive it down. I was coming for the silver. Right. The words landed badly. I took the wrapped box from her. Thank you. You're welcome. We walked into the dining room. The 3 silver pieces sat exactly where she had last seen them, wrapped in the same old pillowcases. Paige placed her shopping bag beside the sideboard. I brought towels, she said. They're already wrapped. Those are pillowcases. They've served admirably. She unwrapped the largest bowl. The silver caught the pale winter light, polished enough to reflect our shapes without giving either of us a face. You polished them, she said, before the schedule. Her hands stopped. I didn't mean that as a criticism, I said. Yes, you did. Yes. She folded the pillowcase into a precise square. You could have sent them with Eric. We discussed this. No, you announced it. You're right. I announced it. Paige looked at me, suspicious of the agreement. I wasn't going to send the pieces to a gathering I was no longer attending, I said. You were free to use something else. We did. I saw. Of course you did. What does that mean? Everyone sent you pictures. Beverly spent half the day making sure you knew what was happening. She sent one picture. She also sent you bread. That was kind. It was. Paige wrapped the bowl in one of the towels she had brought. I watched her smooth the fabric over the rim. Did you have a nice Christmas? I asked. She gave me a quick look. You know exactly how it went. I know what Eric said, which was that dinner was late, the stuffing survived, and everyone left earlier than expected. He shouldn't have told you that. Why? Because now you think you made some profound point. I don't. You must. I spent Christmas at a recreation hall drinking coffee that tasted like a roofing product. It didn't feel like victory. Her hands went still again. You went to a community dinner? Yes. With strangers? I knew Warren. Who's Warren? The man who used to live 3 houses down. So one person you hadn't spoken to in years. That's accurate. Paige stared at me. You would rather eat with strangers than come to my house. No. That's what you did. I would rather have come to your house under different circumstances. You had a room. Nathan was going to pick you up. I changed everything you complained about. After I canceled. Yes, after you canceled. That's generally when people understand someone is serious. I was serious when I called. You asked questions. I told you I felt optional. No, you didn't. You made comments about knees and chairs and expected me to decode you. I almost objected. Then I remembered Eric at the kitchen table, telling me what I had taught them. That's fair, I said. Paige blinked. I should have said it plainly, I continued. I'm saying it now. You invited me without securing a place for me. You expected me to travel without knowing where I would sleep, receive your groceries, wait for your repairman, cook several dishes, and be grateful for whatever time remained after every other commitment. I didn't expect gratitude. That's true. You expected cooperation. I expected family to help. I am family when there's work, and a guest when there's space. That isn't fair. Tell me which part is wrong. She opened her mouth. I waited. You were always welcome, she said. Welcome isn't something I should have to infer while every practical decision says otherwise. I offered the office. You offered it after I asked where I would sleep. How else would I know you needed an answer? Because I'm a person arriving with a suitcase. Paige turned away and reached for the second piece, a wide oval tray. She wrapped it too quickly, leaving one handle exposed. Everyone was willing to move, she said. Beverly and Frank offered to get a hotel. Monica offered an air mattress. Eric offered you his room. You refused all of it. Because those people weren't the ones who invited me. They were trying to help. I know. You made everyone feel responsible. I didn't ask them to call. You didn't have to. You canceled and went silent. I answered every person who contacted me, except me. You didn't contact me. She turned. The room held both statements, each ugly and true. I called on Christmas Eve, she said. For the stuffing, I asked you to come. You asked whether I had stopped needing to prove something. What did you want? Begging? No. An apology in front of everyone? No. Then what? I wanted you to understand why a room offered after a crisis didn't fix what happened before it. I understand that you were hurt. That isn't the same. What do you want me to say, Mom? That I'm a selfish daughter? Fine. I'm selfish. I organized a 5-day holiday for 9 adults, and I made a bad schedule. I called hotels. I rearranged rooms. I changed appointments. I tried to fix it. You rejected everything, and then you sat with strangers so everybody could know exactly how abandoned you were. Nobody there knew why I came. You knew. Yes. Her face tightened. I was lonely, I said. Does that help? She looked away. I hated waking up alone, I continued. I hated calling Eric and hearing him pack to go to your house. I nearly drove past that supper. I checked my phone all night waiting for you to call. Paige's eyes returned to mine. You could have called me, she said. So could you. I thought you didn't want me. I thought you were too angry. I was. So was I. The clock began striking 11, 4 minutes late. Paige looked toward it automatically. That thing is still wrong. Your father liked it that way. Dad liked pretending he could fix it. He was very consistent. For an instant, something softened in her face. Then it vanished. He would have come, she said. The words hit cleanly. Your father would have complained all 5 days, I said. But yes, he would have come. And you would have come with him. Yes. So maybe this isn't only about me. No, I said. It isn't. Paige's eyes filled, but her voice stayed hard. Do you know what it's like trying to host Christmas when every tradition belongs to someone who isn't there? I know exactly what it's like. You stopped wanting to do it after Dad died. You said it was too much. So I took it over. I appreciated that. Did you? Because it feels like you waited for me to fail. I didn't. You never tell me what you need. Then suddenly there's a test, and I don't know I'm taking it until I've failed in front of the whole family. I stared at her. There it was. Not an excuse, but an injury of her own. I didn't plan a test, I said. Maybe you don't have to plan them. She placed the final silver piece in the bag and lifted it. At the front door, I said, Did you miss me? Paige's hand tightened around the handles. That's a cruel question. Why? Because you already know the answer. No, I said. That's the problem. I don't. She stood with her back to me for several seconds. Then she opened the door. I missed you, she said without turning. I was also furious with you. Both things can be true. I know. I don't think you do. She walked down the path carrying the silver between us. I watched until her car disappeared at the corner. Then I closed the door and leaned against it, listening to the house settle around the space she had occupied. The room smelled faintly of her perfume, something clean and expensive that always made me think of hotel soap. Her present was still on the hall table. I carried it into the kitchen and opened it with a paring knife. Inside was a dark green robe, soft and heavy with deep pockets. A tag had been tied to the belt in Paige's handwriting, for coffee in our pajamas. She had written it before the schedule, before the gray box, before either of us knew that a bathrobe could become accusatory. I put it on over my clothes. The sleeves were exactly the right length. Paige had noticed years earlier that I hated robes whose cuffs dragged through breakfast. She knew things about me. She simply did not always arrange her life as if those things belonged to a real person. I texted, "The robe is beautiful. Thank you." Her answer came 20 minutes later. "You're welcome." That was the last thing either of us said for a week. Eric called that evening and asked how the visit had gone. "I'm not discussing it with you," I said. "Why not? Because you'll discuss it with her. I can keep things private." "Your partner told me about a photograph of a table 6 minutes after entering my house. That was Leon. You share a health insurance plan and a weakness for disclosure. I'm treating you as one organization." He laughed, then stopped when I didn't. "She's upset," he said. "So am I. She thinks you made her come down there just to tell her she's a bad daughter. I didn't make her come. She came for the silver, then she got the silver. Mom, what would you like from me? I don't know. A sign that this isn't going to last forever." I tightened the robe around my waist. "I love your sister," I said. "That hasn't changed. That isn't the same as talking to her." "No." "And you're comfortable with that?" "No." He went quiet. "That answer makes me feel worse," he said. "I'm not going to lie so you can feel better. You used to." "Yes." The word came out more sharply than I intended. Eric let several seconds pass. "All right, I'm sorry." "No, you're not wrong. That doesn't mean I needed to say it that way. That sounds like progress. Don't become smug. You're not built for it." He laughed softly. Before we hung up, I told him I did not want him carrying messages between us. He agreed, though with the weary tone of someone surrendering a favorite hobby. Warren called the following morning. "I'm checking whether exchanging phone numbers was ceremonial," he said. "I hadn't decided." "Coffee? When?" Today? That's very little notice. I'm recently informed that notice matters. We met at a diner near the old neighborhood. The booths were red vinyl, the coffee was strong enough to erase Marlene's from memory, and the menu had been laminated before the invention of subtlety. Warren arrived first. He was wearing the same green plaid shirt beneath a brown jacket. "Do you own another shirt?" I asked. "I do. It's blue plaid." We ordered coffee. I chose toast. He ordered eggs, sausage, potatoes, and a waffle. "Didn't you eat enough on Christmas?" I asked. "I'm rebuilding." He poured cream into his coffee until it resembled paint. "How was the second dinner?" I asked. "Awkward. You arrived full." That wasn't the awkward part. What was? My daughter asked why I ate at the community supper when she had invited me. What did you say? That being invited from 4 to 7 made the rest of the day available. Did she appreciate that? She said I was making a point. Were you? Absolutely. I smiled. Warren leaned back, but I also went. To her dinner. Yes. Why? Because I wanted to see her. That sounds suspiciously reasonable. It was terrible. I'm hoping not to repeat it. The waitress brought his plate and set my toast beside it. Warren picked up the syrup. "You didn't go at all," he said. "No." "Do you regret it?" "I regret that those were the choices." "That isn't what I asked." I buttered my toast. "Yes," I said. "And no, convenient. I regret missing my family. I don't regret refusing the terms. Would you go now? Christmas is over. If your daughter recreated it tomorrow, same people, same table, less dangerous centerpiece, no, then you don't regret it. You're irritating. Carol said that often." He poured syrup across the waffle and onto one of his sausages. "You could stop that," I said. I could. Neither of us pretended we were discussing syrup. Warren told me his daughter, Andrea, had called the day after Christmas to apologize for shortening his stay. He had accepted the apology, then made the mistake of explaining why he had been hurt. "She withdrew the apology?" I asked. "She revised it." "How?" "She said she was sorry I felt displaced, not sorry she displaced me." "That's not an apology. She's in human resources. She has training." I laughed. "My point," Warren said, "is that I went to dinner and we still had the argument." "Congratulations. The argument doesn't disappear because you show up. It also doesn't disappear because you stay away. I'm aware, are you?" I looked at him over my coffee. He raised both hands. Ceremonial friendship terminated. "Not yet." "Good. I already ordered the waffle." I drove to Vermont 2 days later. Diane had made the guest bed with flannel sheets and left a folded towel at the foot. There was no schedule, but she had placed a note on the dresser. "Malcolm makes coffee at 7. I emerge at 9. Save yourself." I carried it downstairs and held it up. "You put my morning in writing. That's a warning, not a plan." Malcolm glanced up from a crossword puzzle. "She emerges at 9 in the sense that weather emerges." Diane took the note from me and tore it in half. "There. You're free." Their cousin and her wife had flown home the previous day, leaving behind a jar of face cream and half a bottle of gin. I had the guest room to myself. No one needed me to cook. No package required receiving. No repairman was expected. The lack of usefulness made me restless. On my first morning, I cleaned the kitchen before Diane came down. She stood in the doorway in her robe and stared at the empty drying rack. "Did you wash everything?" It was there. So were the walls. "Why didn't you paint them?" I was awake. "You're a guest." "I know." "Do you?" I opened a cabinet to put away a mug. Diane closed it. "You don't know where that goes. It came from there. That doesn't mean it lives there. Malcolm moves things without authorization." Malcolm called from the living room. "I can hear you." "This is for your benefit," Diane replied. She poured coffee and sat across from me. "You're doing it here, too," she said. "Doing what?" "Earning your room." I washed 3 plates. You made the bed before coming downstairs. People make beds. You folded the decorative pillows back onto it. They were on the floor. They belong on the floor. Decorative pillows are punishment. I sat down. Diane wrapped both hands around her mug. You don't have to prove you were worth inviting. I know. No, you know the words. I looked toward the window. Snow had gathered along the porch railing in a perfect white line. It feels rude to do nothing, I said. Then do something because you want to, not because you think I'll send you home. You would never send me home. Exactly. The certainty in her voice embarrassed me. We spent 3 days playing cards, taking slow walks through town, and arguing about whether Malcolm cheated at Scrabble. He did, though only with 2-letter words. Diane made soup from leftovers and refused my help until I threatened to cut the bread incorrectly. Paige sent a picture of herself and Nathan using the green mugs I had given them. The message said, "We love these." I answered, "I'm glad." I did not ask whether they had used them for coffee in their pajamas. On New Year's Eve, Diane and Malcolm went to bed at 10:30. I stayed up in the guest room reading a mystery novel in which an alarming number of people were murdered at a country house, yet no one considered leaving. At midnight, fireworks cracked somewhere beyond the trees. My phone lit at 12:03. "Happy New Year, Mom." I stared at the words. "Happy New Year, sweetheart," I wrote. The 3 dots appeared. They vanished. I waited until 12:20 before setting the phone down. When I returned home, the town had begun dismantling Christmas. Wreaths sagged on doors. Trees stood bare at the curb. My own decorations looked theatrical in daylight, as if the house had dressed for a party that ended without telling it. I took down everything except the cards. Marlene called while I was wrapping the glass ornaments. "We had a volunteer cancellation," she said, "for Christmas. For the January supper. We feed people every month. Loneliness is famously non-seasonal. What do you need?" Table 6 setup. 10:30. "What date?" She told me. "I can do it. Good. Bring no pie." At the January supper, I arrived at 10:28. Marlene inspected her watch but did not comment. She handed me a stack of plastic cloths and directed me toward the same room, now stripped of garland and Santa hats. Warren was unfolding chairs. "You again," I said. I was promised usefulness. So was I. We worked on opposite sides of table 6, pulling the red cloth tight. It took less than a minute. There was no reason for the satisfaction it gave me. Afterward, Marlene asked us to arrange salt, pepper, and paper napkins. Warren placed the shakers with military precision. "You're very controlling," I said. "I like certainty. I know someone who makes schedules. Too soon." We ate after the guests were served. The food was meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans that had given up. Nobody asked why we were there. I began helping twice a month, not because the recreation hall transformed into a second family. It didn't. Marlene remained bossy, Warren remained irritating, and one man at table 3 complained about every dessert while eating 2 portions. I went because my name was expected at 10:30 and because the expectation ended when the tables were stacked. At home, Paige's messages remained brief. Nathan's parents got home safely. "Thank you again for the mugs. Do you have Aunt Lorraine's baked bean recipe?" I answered each question. She answered my answers. No one mentioned Christmas. 3 weeks into January, Eric called on a Sunday and asked if I could be at his apartment Tuesday afternoon for a furniture delivery. My first instinct was to say yes. "What time?" I asked. "Between 1 and 5. Will you be there?" "I have a meeting." "What about Leon?" "Office." I looked at my calendar. Nothing was written on Tuesday. "I can't," I said. The silence was immediate. "Oh," Eric said. "You sound surprised. You're usually free." "I am free." "Then why can't you? Because being free doesn't automatically make me available." He did not answer. I felt mean. Powerful, then mean again. "I can come another day and help you move it," I offered. "No, it's fine. I'll reschedule. Are you angry?" "No." Disappointed accordion. He laughed reluctantly. "Maybe a little." "I love you." "I know." After we hung up, I sat with the discomfort of having disappointed someone when I could easily have prevented it. It did not kill me. That evening, Paige texted for the first time in 9 days. "Eric says you wouldn't help with his delivery." I looked at the message and understood how quickly a boundary could become family news. I typed, "That's between Eric and me." Her reply came a minute later. "Everything is, apparently." I did not answer. The sentence was too small to hold everything I wanted to put inside it. If I wrote a paragraph, Paige would hear a lecture. If I wrote nothing, she would hear punishment. I chose punishment by indecision. The next morning, I called Eric. "Did you complain to your sister about me?" "No. She knows about the delivery. She asked what I was doing Tuesday. I told her I had to move a meeting. And you told her why." "I answered a question, Mom. You could have said it was none of her business. Is that the new family policy?" I rubbed my forehead. "No." "Good, because I didn't receive the handbook. I'm sorry. For not waiting for the furniture. For assuming you reported me." He was quiet. "I was annoyed," he said, "but I didn't report you. I know that now. The delivery is Saturday. They gave me a 2-hour window. Do you need help? Leon will be there." That wasn't my question. Another pause. "Yes," he said. "The cabinet weighs as much as a Buick. I'll come." "Yeah, you don't have to." "I want to." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm coming." He laughed. "What do I tell Paige?" "That I'm weakening." "Excellent, she'll make a chart." On Saturday, I arrived at Eric and Leon's apartment at 11:58. The delivery window began at noon. Eric opened the door and looked at his watch. "You're early." By 2 minutes. I wanted to experience saying it. The cabinet arrived at 12:30. It was taller than I expected and uglier than the photograph Eric had shown me. Dark wood, brass mesh doors, and feet shaped like animal paws. "What is it?" I asked. "A bar cabinet," Eric said. "You own 6 bottles. We're planning ahead." Leon ran a hand along the top. It looked less haunted online. The delivery men left it in the center of the living room. The 3 of us spent 40 minutes moving it 8 feet because Eric wanted it beside the window, Leon wanted it opposite the sofa, and I wanted it returned to the forest. At one point, Eric said, "Hold this," and I did. The difference was embarrassingly simple. He was there. He had asked. I could see what my help was for and when it would end. We ordered lunch and ate on the floor because the cabinet had temporarily trapped one dining chair behind the sofa. No one called my presence a sacrifice. No one thanked me until I left. In the elevator, I understood that saying no to the delivery had not been a pure boundary. Part of me had wanted Eric to feel the inconvenience I had spent years preventing. I had turned down something I could easily do because I needed proof that I was allowed. That did not make the no wrong. It made it less noble than I had hoped. At the next community supper, I told Warren. He was arranging forks with the tines aligned. "You're confessing that you enjoyed disappointing your son?" he asked. "I didn't enjoy it." "Did you check your phone afterward?" "Yes. To see whether he called?" "Maybe." "You enjoyed it a little. You poured gravy on cranberry sauce." Deflection. Marlene passed behind us carrying a stack of plates. Whatever he did, he enjoyed it. "Thank you," I said. "You're welcome." Warren placed another fork. "Carol once stopped doing my laundry because I left my socks inside out." "For how long?" 8 months. "What did you do?" "Bought more socks." "That wasn't the intended lesson." "No." Eventually, she told me. "And?" "I turned them right side out." Growth. I also discovered the washing machine. I straightened a napkin that did not need straightening. "I don't want to become someone who treats every request as an insult," I said. "Then don't. That's useful. A boundary isn't refusing everything. I know. It's deciding before resentment decides for you." I looked at him. Did Carol say that? No, she would have used more profanity. My phone rang while we were stacking cups. Nathan's name appeared on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message asking if he could stop by that weekend. He said he had something of mine. Saturday morning, Nathan arrived carrying the silver in Paige's shopping bag. I stared at it. Why did it leave my house after Christmas only to return in January? I was hoping you could explain that. "You carried it away," I said to the absent Paige, "to make a point." Nathan lifted the bag. its very heavy point. He came inside and set it on the dining room table. "Coffee?" I asked. "I'd love some." "Does Paige know you're here?" "Yes." "Does she know you're staying for coffee?" I said I might. "That sounds dangerous." "She knows." I went to the kitchen. Nathan followed and sat at the table while I filled the kettle. He looked tired but composed, the way men in his profession probably looked while explaining why a roof was not covered. "I'm not here to negotiate," he said. "Good. I'm also not carrying messages. Better. I wanted to return the silver. That takes 6 minutes. I was hoping for 10. I put coffee into the press. You have 10. Nathan rested his hands around an empty mug. "I owe you an apology. You already apologized for the schedule. I said I was sorry it upset you." "Yes. That wasn't enough." "No." He nodded, accepting it. "I saw the line before Paige sent it," he said. "I saw the room problem. I knew she had asked you to make food and cover the delivery and repair appointment. We discussed this on the phone. I didn't say the rest." The kettle began to murmur. "What's the rest?" "I thought you would handle it." "Handle what?" "All of it. I thought if you didn't like the office, you'd take a hotel. If the train was inconvenient, you'd change it. If you were annoyed, you'd get over it. That's honest. It's awful. It can be both." He looked down at the mug. "The holidays are easier when you're there," he said. "You notice what needs doing. You keep Paige calm. You talk to Frank so Beverly can get away from him for 20 minutes. You make Eric feel useful by asking him to carry things. I benefit from all of that. And I didn't ask what it costs you." The kettle clicked off. I poured the water slowly. "Did Paige ask you to say this?" "No." "Have you said it to her?" "Yes." "What did she say?" Nathan gave a tired half smile. "She said I was taking your side. Are you? I'm taking mine. I should have done better." We waited for the coffee to steep. After I poured it, Nathan added too much sugar. David used to do the same and insisted improve the beans. "How was Christmas night?" I asked. He looked at me over the rim. "Eric told me everyone left. Everyone did." "Was Paige upset?" "Yes." "Did she talk about me?" "Constantly before dinner. Not at all after. I absorbed that." Nathan put down his mug. "She kept your place card until an hour before people arrived." "I know." "How?" "Eric. He said he wasn't carrying messages. The rule came later." Nathan smiled. "She thought you would call," he said. "I thought she would." "I know." "You know quite a lot again. I'm trying to say the part I should say, then stop. Go on." He traced a finger over the mug's handle. After everyone went upstairs or left, Paige sat at the table for almost an hour. She said, "Mom is the one person I shouldn't have to schedule." The words made something twist inside me. "What did you say?" I said maybe you were the one person she should have scheduled first. I looked away. "That didn't go well," he added. "I imagine not." She accused me of waiting until after the disaster to become wise. She's not wrong. "No." "Why are you telling me?" "Because I don't want you thinking she didn't miss you. I know she missed me." "Do you?" She said she did. "Then believe her." I stood and carried my cup to the sink, though it was still half full. Missing me isn't the same as understanding. No. And understanding isn't the same as changing. No. You agree a lot for someone who isn't negotiating. I work in insurance. I still don't know what you insure. Mostly buildings. I knew it. He laughed. I turned back toward him. Her father died too. Nathan's smile disappeared. "I know." Sometimes I forget that. Paige was an adult. She had her own house, her own marriage. David was sick for a long time, and she was capable. I think I decided that meant she was less bereaved than I was. She would never tell you otherwise. No. She likes being capable. She learned from someone. The coffee press sat between us, dark liquid cooling inside. "Did she make that schedule because she was afraid of Christmas?" I asked. Nathan considered. "She made it because she wanted everything to go right." Since David died, she thinks if she gets the details right, no one can notice what's missing. That sounds like fear. It probably is. It doesn't excuse what she did. I didn't say it did. I know. I'm reminding myself. Before Nathan left, he carried the silver into the dining room and put each piece on the sideboard. Paige's shopping bag remained folded on the table. At the door, he said, "She's waiting for you to invite her. She came without an invitation the last time. She came for an argument. Did she tell you that? She brought the silver home after Christmas, kept it in our dining room for 3 weeks, and then asked me to return it. What do you think? I think neither of you understands silver. She doesn't know how to begin. Neither do I." Nathan nodded. That's all. After he left, I unwrapped the pieces. Paige had polished them again. The oval tray shone without a fingerprint. I did not call her. She did not call me. Our silence reached 6 weeks by behaving like ordinary days. Groceries, laundry, community suppers, coffee with Warren, brief calls with Diane. I learned how much of a relationship could remain visible from a distance. Paige's photograph appeared in Eric's messages. Nathan sent me a joke about building insurance. Tessa mentioned that Paige was working too much. Information traveled around the hole between us and outlined it perfectly. Then, on a Thursday evening, my phone lit with Paige's name. "I'm free Saturday from noon through dinner. I would like to come see you if that works for you. Just me. No errands, no agenda. I won't cancel." I read it 3 times. The wording was so careful it hurt. I typed, "Yes. Noon works." Paige answered, "I'll be there." At 11:50, I was standing at the front window pretending to adjust the curtain. I had cleaned the house that morning, though it was already clean. I vacuumed the living room, dusted the mantel, wiped the kitchen counters, and replaced the hand towel in the downstairs bathroom with one that did not contain a faded picture of a lobster. Then I became angry with myself for preparing so carefully and put the lobster towel back. At 11:56, a dark sedan slowed in front of the house. It kept going. At 11:59, Paige's car pulled into the driveway. She came up the walk carrying a bakery box and her purse. No shopping bags, borrowed dishes, or objects that needed returning. She rang the bell instead of using her key. I opened the door. "It's noon," she said. The clock in the dining room struck 1. "Depends who you ask." We both smiled, then immediately became careful again. Paige stepped inside. She wore jeans, a navy sweater, and low boots. Her hair was down. She looked less tired than she had after Christmas, but more uncertain, which was unusual enough to make her seem younger. "I brought lunch," she said. "Sandwiches and cookies. You and Eric are becoming predictable. I asked him what he brought last time. So you discussed today. He only told me the sandwich place." I took the box. "He also told me you came to help with the cabinet," she said. "Apparently everything is." Her mouth tightened. "I'm sorry," I said. "That was unnecessary." "No, I earned that one. You don't have to earn every unpleasant thing I say." "Good. I'd be very busy." She took off her coat and hung it beside mine. We carried lunch into the kitchen. Paige had brought chicken salad for me, turkey for herself, a container of potato salad, and 4 oatmeal cookies. She also brought sparkling water because she had decided years earlier that my tap water tasted faintly of coins. I had never detected the coins, but I liked the bubbles. "Do you want coffee?" I asked. "Later. Tea? I'm fine." We looked at each other. "Verified?" I asked. She laughed, surprised. "Verified." We sat. For the first 10 minutes, we spoke about everything except why she was there. Nathan's office had finally acquired shelves. Diane had mailed Malcolm's forgotten scarf to the wrong address. Eric and Leon's cabinet doors would not close because the floor sloped. "Leon thinks the building is settling," Paige said. "The building is 100 years old. It has settled. He says it's still processing." We ate slowly. Paige's phone buzzed inside her purse. Her eyes moved toward it, then back to me. "You can check," I said. "No, it might be important. I told everyone I was unavailable until tonight." The words settled between us. "Everyone?" I asked. Nathan? Work. Tessa. What if there's an emergency? Nathan knows where I am. I looked down at my sandwich. She had protected the time. I did not want to be moved by something that should have been ordinary, but the body is not interested in fairness. Paige took a drink of water. I wrote the schedule at 1 in the morning, she said. I waited. Nathan went to bed around 11. I stayed up because I thought if I could see everything on paper, it would stop feeling impossible. Did it? No. It looked more impossible. She rubbed a thumb over the edge of her napkin. Beverly wanted exact times. Simon wouldn't confirm how long they were staying. Monica's back was bothering her. Tessa had already changed the cocktail night twice. Frank wanted the lights downtown, though he kept saying he didn't care. Eric hadn't told me when he and Leon were arriving. That sounds like Eric. He said, sometime before dinner, as if roads are spiritual. I smiled. I gave everyone a color because I was trying to see who needed what. Paige continued, and then I got to you. Her gaze remained on the napkin. I knew you were coming. I knew you'd help. I knew if I asked you to wait for the dishwasher repairman, you would. I knew if the room changed, you would say it was fine. I usually do. Yes. The phone buzzed again. Paige ignored it. I wrote, Mom's visit, if time allows, because I thought our private time could go anywhere, she said. I thought you were the one person I didn't have to protect time with. The words were almost the same ones Nathan had told me, but they sounded different in her voice. Because I'm your mother. Because you always stay. I sat very still. Everyone else's plans had consequences, she said. If I changed Beverly's lunch, she would tell me she was unhappy. If I canceled Tessa, she might make other plans. If Simon didn't get the guest room, he might leave early. I didn't think you would leave, so I got what was left. Yes, she said it without defense. I didn't understand it that way when I sent it, she continued. I thought I was being efficient. You were already part of everything, so I treated the time with you like empty space I could move other things into. My throat tightened. I'm sorry, she said. Not that the wording upset you. Not that you misunderstood. I'm sorry I invited you without knowing where you would sleep. I'm sorry I gave you work I had protected on the schedule and gave you time I hadn't. I'm sorry I expected you to make my Christmas easier while I made yours uncertain. I looked toward the window. A sparrow landed on the fence, pecked once at a patch of snow, and flew away. Thank you, I said. Paige's face changed slightly, as though she had expected more or worse. You don't have to thank me. I know. I should have said it the first day. Yes. She nodded. I didn't because I thought apologizing meant agreeing that you should cancel. Then after you canceled, apologizing felt like admitting I had caused everything. You did cause part of it. I know. I caused part too. Paige's mouth tightened again. You don't need to confess so I can apologize. I'm not. You always do that. You take some blame so the other person doesn't have to sit with all of theirs. That's annoyingly perceptive. I had 6 weeks. I folded my napkin. I made myself easy for years, I said. Then I got angry that you believed me. You were allowed to change. I was, but I should have said what I needed before I canceled. You asked where you would sleep. I also made jokes and expected you to hear the pain underneath them. You said your knees needed a bed. They do. You said you weren't coming. I did. What else were you supposed to say? That I felt as if you wanted my hands more than you wanted me. Paige looked down. The sentence had waited a long time to become plain. I did want your hands, she said quietly. I also wanted you. I just treated one of those things as guaranteed. We sat without speaking. The dining room clock ticked toward the wrong hour. Finally, Paige said, Christmas night was awful. I heard. From Eric and Nathan. She looked up. Nathan talked to you? He returned the silver. He wasn't supposed to discuss Christmas. He apologized for his part. Of course he did. What does that mean? It means he had 3 weeks to develop a conscience after helping me make every decision. He admitted that. Did he tell you he said the schedule looked great? No, he did. He said, very organized. That sounds like Nathan. He also told me not to worry about your room because you'd be fine. That sounds more like him than he would enjoy. Paige picked at the paper around her sandwich. I blamed him for a while, she said. Then I realized I was angry because he had assumed the same thing I did, that I would handle it. Yes. What happened Christmas night? She looked toward the dining room. Everyone followed the schedule. There was no humor in it. Tessa and Jordan left after dessert because they had another party. Simon and Monica went upstairs to pack. Beverly said Frank needed to rest, though he wanted to keep eating. Eric and Leon stayed, but I could tell Eric was watching me. He does have a crisis face. He really does. I smiled. After they left, Nathan cleaned, she continued. I sat at the table. The place cards were everywhere. The candles had burned down unevenly. There was stuffing on the floor. David always drops stuffing. I know. Her eyes filled. I picked up my phone to call you, she said. Not to apologize, just to tell you everything that had gone wrong. I wanted to tell you what Beverly said about the cranberry sauce and how Monica spilled wine and how Frank ate almost an entire cheese plate. I could picture her reaching for the phone automatically. Then I realized I wanted you to comfort me about a Christmas where I had made you optional. The kitchen blurred. I put the phone down, she said. I waited for you. I know. How? Because I know you. You could have called anyway. I was ashamed. So was I. For what? For waiting. She shook her head. That isn't shameful. It felt like surrender. Maybe calling shouldn't be surrender. No, but it was. Yes, the honesty of that exhausted both of us. We cleared the lunch dishes together. Paige carried plates to the sink, then stopped. Do you want help? Yes, I said. Her face flickered with surprise. Dry, I told her. The towels are in the second drawer. She found the towel and stood beside me. We washed and dried 4 plates, 2 glasses, and a knife. No one mistook the work for proof of belonging. At 3, we moved into the living room. Paige sat in David's chair, realized it, and started to rise. Stay, I said. Are you sure? It's a chair. She settled back slowly. We spoke about her father. Not the softened version of him we usually produced for holidays, but the man who got lost while refusing directions, who complained about restaurant lighting, who made Paige feel protected and sometimes managed. Paige admitted that hosting Christmas had been her way of proving the family could still gather without his force holding it in place. It felt like if I made it beautiful enough, no one would see the hole, she said. We all saw it. I know. That doesn't mean you failed. She looked at me. You weren't there. That was not because your centerpiece was too large. I know. Her phone buzzed for the 3rd time. Check it, I said. Paige took it out. 3 messages from Tessa glowed on the screen. She wants me to help choose a restaurant for tonight, Paige said. Are you going? No. You can. I don't want to. Don't stay to prove something. I'm staying because I said I would, and because I want to. She turned the phone off. We made tomato soup and grilled cheese for dinner. Paige burned the first sandwich because we were arguing about whether the heat was too high. It was. She ate the burned one. At 7:15, she put on her coat. What happens now? She asked. I don't know. I don't want to go another 6 weeks. Neither do I. Can we have lunch next Sunday? Here or halfway? Halfway. Noon, 12:30. She nodded. I'll send you the restaurant. And if something changes, I'll tell you before it becomes your problem. I opened the door. Paige stood on the threshold, neither leaving nor coming back in. I can't promise I'll never take you for granted again, she said. I can't promise I'll always tell you before I'm angry. That's not very inspiring, it's honest. She smiled, then she hugged me. I held her without pretending the hug repaired everything. It did not restore Christmas, erase the schedule, or make 6 weeks of silence useful. It only placed us in the same moment, both choosing not to step away. When she reached her car, she turned. Mom? Yes? The robe fits, right? Perfectly. Good. She drove away at 7:23, 8 minutes later than planned. Neither of us mentioned it. At 12:17 the next Sunday, Paige was already seated at the restaurant. She had chosen a place almost exactly halfway between our houses, a converted train depot with terrible parking and very good soup. When I walked in, she stood. "I'm early," she said. "I see that. I left 40 minutes for traffic. There was none. There was traffic. I overestimated. Now you're just showing off." We sat. Her phone was face down beside her water glass. Lunch lasted 2 hours. We discussed Nathan's shelves, my work at the recreation hall, Eric's haunted cabinet, and whether Warren's decision to order liver and onions in public was a cry for help. We did not discuss Christmas. That felt strange at first. Then it felt like relief. Repair could not survive if we dug it up every time we met to check whether the roots were growing. Paige paid her half of the check before I could object. Outside, she hugged me and said, "Next Sunday, I have the supper set up. Saturday, I'm having coffee with Warren." She raised an eyebrow. "It isn't romantic." I didn't say anything. "You have your father's eyebrows, too." We agreed on the following Wednesday evening. She sent a calendar invitation while standing beside her car. The subject line read, "Dinner with Mom, not flexible." I laughed. "Too soon?" she asked. "Almost. Over the next few months, we learned to make plans like people who did not own one another's time. It was less graceful than it sounds." In March, Paige asked me to come to her house for a weekend because Nathan would be away and she wanted company. I agreed. 2 days beforehand, she called to say a work dinner had been moved to Saturday night. "I can cancel it," she said quickly. "Do you need to go?" "Yes." "Then go. I don't want you to think I'm doing it again. You told me before I packed. You're not asking me to spend Saturday alone in your house. So you won't come? I'll come another weekend." She was disappointed. So was I. Neither of us turned the disappointment into evidence. We rescheduled for April. When I arrived, the blue room was ready. The reading lamps worked. There were clean towels in the bathroom and a glass beside the bed. Paige had put the green robe on the hook behind the door because I had forgotten it at home after wearing it almost every morning. "I bought you toothpaste," she said. "I have teeth at home, too. I brought my own." I panicked. We spent Saturday walking through a used furniture market where Paige bought a small table she did not need, and I bought nothing with great determination. That evening, she cooked pasta. I offered to chop the vegetables. "You don't have to," she said. "I know. Do you want to?" "Yes." "All right." The question became a small habit between us. "Do you want to bring the salad? Do you want to come early? Do you want to stay another night?" Sometimes I said yes, sometimes no. The world continued. In May, she forgot. She invited me to Nathan's birthday dinner and asked if I could arrive at 2. When I got there, she handed me a list without looking up. Ice wine, set table. Pick up cake at 4. Call Frank about directions. I stood in the kitchen holding the paper. "What is this?" I asked. "My survival." "You asked me to come early. You didn't ask me to run the afternoon." She looked at me blankly, then at the list. "Oh." Nathan was in the next room arranging bottles. He became intensely interested in a corkscrew. Paige rubbed her forehead. "You're right. I can set the table or pick up the cake." "Not both. Cake. Fine." "What about Frank?" "Frank has been finding buildings since before you were born. He'll call me 6 times. Then your survival has limits." She laughed, though she did not enjoy it. The dinner was good. Frank arrived without intervention. I picked up the cake, Nathan set the table, and Paige called the store about the wine. Nothing suffered from being distributed among the people benefiting from it. Later, while we washed dishes, Paige said, "I really did forget." "I know. Are you angry?" "A little. I asked if you wanted to help. You asked if I wanted to come early. That's not the same. No." She handed me a wet plate. "I'm learning." So am I. In June, Eric called and asked whether I could wait at his apartment for a plumber. "Will there be sandwiches?" I asked. "There can be." "How long?" 10 to noon. "Will you be back by 12?" "Yes." "Then yes." He sounded surprised. "What?" I said. "I thought you might say no on principle. I tried that. It was exhausting." "So, the boundary is gone?" "The boundary is that I decide. Can I tell Paige?" "Only if you make it sound mysterious. Our family did not become enlightened. We remained nosy, indirect, and overly interested in who had called whom. But Eric stopped assuming that every conflict needed him as an interpreter. Nathan began speaking before problems became private confessions. Paige sometimes caught herself assigning me a task and changed the sentence into a question. Warren said we were all overachievers. His own relationship with Andrea improved by inches. She invited him for a weekend in July and gave him the guest room before anyone asked. He complained that the mattress was too soft. "You're impossible," I told him over coffee. "I have standards now." "You always had standards. You just hid them until they became complaints." He stared at me. "You're spending too much time with Marlene." Marlene had promoted us to what she called reliable furniture, meaning we no longer needed instructions during setup. Warren arranged the chairs. I managed the tablecloths and stopped correcting him when the salt shakers were uneven. At the August supper, Marlene put a candle in a square of sheet cake and made the room sing to me. I had not told her it was my birthday. "Warren," I said. He looked offended. "I would never." "Diane," he added. "I should have known." Paige arrived afterward and took me to dinner. The restaurant was the same one where she had left before dessert the previous year. I recognized the entrance and stopped on the sidewalk. "We can go somewhere else," she said. "Why did you choose this place?" "Because I wanted to do it correctly. I don't need a reenactment, I know. But they make the chocolate cake you like." That was also true. We stayed. Halfway through dinner, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. "Work," she said. "Do you need to answer?" "I don't know." It rang again. Paige picked it up. "I'll be right back." She walked toward the lobby. I sat alone with 2 plates between me and the empty chair. The old humiliation rose so quickly that it felt preserved, waiting in the carpet. 5 minutes passed, then 8. When Paige returned, she began explaining a problem with a client presentation. "I want you back at the table," I said. She stopped. "You are at the table," she said, then understood. "I'm sorry." I should have said the call would take a few minutes. "You should have asked whether I minded." "Did you?" "Yes." "All right." She silenced the phone and put it in her purse. "I'm here," she said. "I see you." We ordered the chocolate cake. The evening was not perfect. That made it more valuable. I had spoken before resentment could turn the entire dinner into proof. Paige had corrected herself without collapsing into shame or defending the phone call as inevitable. She stayed through dessert. By October, stores had begun displaying Christmas decorations beside discounted Halloween candy. I pretended not to notice. Paige did not. She called on a Tuesday evening while I was making soup. "I want to ask about Christmas," she said. The wooden spoon stopped in my hand. "All right, Nathan and I are hosting again. Brave. Possibly stupid. Those often live together." She laughed, then became serious. "We'd like you to come from the 23rd through the 26th. The blue room is yours. No one else is being offered it. Nathan can pick you up at South Station on the 23rd at 4:10, assuming you take the train we looked at." "You looked at a train?" "I looked. I didn't buy." "Good. You don't have to answer now. I can't come on the 23rd. A small pause. "Okay." Marlene asked me to help prepare the recreation hall for the Christmas supper. Warren and I are setting up on the 23rd. "You're doing the supper again, not the meal. Just set up. I want to go." "Of course." The disappointment in her voice was clear. She did not make it my responsibility. "I can come on the 24th, I said. "There's a train that arrives at 1:15. And stay through the 26th? Yes, that would be 2 nights. I still understand arithmetic, I was confirming. "I know." Another pause. 2 nights sounds good, she said. "Does it?" "It sounds shorter than I hoped." "It also sounds good." "Thank you. Will you make the stuffing?" There it was. Paige immediately added, I am asking. You can say no. If you say yes, I'll buy everything, and we'll make it together. Yes. Yes, you'll make it. Yes, we'll make it together. Chestnuts? Frank likes them. Beverly hates them. They can sustain their marriage for another year. The invitation arrived by email an hour later. 3 sentences. No schedule. A week before Christmas, Paige sent a shorter version of the group itinerary. She called first. I made a schedule, she said. I assumed you'd relapse eventually. Can I send it to you before everyone else? You don't need my permission. I want you to see your part. That sounds ominous. The email arrived while we were still on the phone. Christmas Eve had gold boxes for arrivals, dinner, and Tessa and Jordan's cocktails. Christmas Day included breakfast, a walk, gifts, and dinner. The blue items marked Nathan's family. Eric and Leon were green. At 1:15 on Christmas Eve, a gold box read, Mom arrives. Nathan pickup. Blue room reserved through December 26th. At 7 that evening, dinner at home with Mom protected. I stared at the word. It feels a little like overcorrection, I said. It is. You don't have to label me protected, I know. Then why did you? Because I need the reminder more than you do. I swallowed. The schedule is fine, I said. Verified? Verified. On December 23rd, Warren and I set up 80 chairs in the recreation hall. Marlene complained that he had aligned them too precisely and that I had folded the napkins as if health inspectors were coming. At the end, Warren handed me a paper cup of aspirational coffee. You nervous? He asked. No. Verified. I looked at him. Your daughter says it too loudly in public, he explained. I'm a little nervous. Good. Why good? Means you're going somewhere that matters. The next day, I boarded the 1:15 train with a suitcase, a bag of wrapped presents, and no food. Nathan was waiting when I arrived. He took my suitcase without assuming I could not carry it. Welcome, he said. The word felt different with a room behind it. At the house, Paige opened the door before we reached the porch. She hugged me in the hall. Over her shoulder, I saw the dining table. Shorter this year, the centerpiece low enough to see across. Upstairs, the blue room waited exactly as promised. My green robe hung behind the door. On the bedside table sat a glass of water and a card in Paige's handwriting. No conditions. I set my slippers beside the bed. Then I went downstairs to make stuffing with my daughter. Paige had already cut the cornbread into cubes. They were uneven. I stood over the sheet pan. Say it, she said. I didn't say anything. You're looking at them like they've failed an inspection. They'll taste fine. That is not the same as approval. I picked up one of the larger pieces. This one could be a dinner roll. Cut it smaller. You cut it. I'm chopping celery. Did you peel the strings? Paige lowered the knife and stared at me. From the doorway, Nathan said, I'm going back to the station. You just came from the station, Paige said. I forgot someone. There is no one else arriving. I'll find someone. He retreated into the living room. Paige and I looked at each other, then laughed. The kitchen was warm with the oven running. On the counter, onions softened in butter. Fresh sage lay beneath my knife, and a bowl of chestnuts waited near the stove. Paige had bought twice as many as we needed. I panicked, she said when I pointed that out. You panic expensively. I learned from Dad. Your father panicked cheaply. Then he bought the wrong thing twice. She smiled and returned to the celery. For a while, we worked without talking. Paige chopped. I measured seasonings into my palm because spoons slowed me down. When I reached for the bread, she moved the sheet pan closer. Do you want me to melt the rest of the butter? She asked. Yes. Do you want me to, or do you think I'll ruin it? Both can be true. She rolled her eyes. At 4, Tessa and Jordan arrived for cocktails. Tessa hugged me with enough enthusiasm to suggest she still felt guilty about my birthday. Jordan handed Nathan a bottle of natural wine whose label appeared to have been drawn during an earthquake. It tastes better than it looks, he said. That's an achievable goal, I told him. The 4 of them gathered in the living room. I started to stay in the kitchen with the stuffing. Paige appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? Checking the broth. It has been checked. It might have changed. Come sit down. I don't know anything about natural wine. Neither does Jordan. I heard that, he called. Paige held out her hand. Come on. I dried mine and followed her. The conversation wandered through renovations, work, travel, and a restaurant Tessa wanted everyone to try. No one asked me to refill a glass. When Nathan stood to get more ice, I began to rise. I have it, he said. I'm already halfway up. Then use the momentum to reach the cheese. That seemed fair. At 5:45, Tessa suggested they move the evening to a new bar nearby. They have a fireplace, she said. We could grab food there. Paige looked at me, then at Nathan. We have dinner at 7, she said. We can eat at the bar, Tessa replied. No, we're staying here. The refusal was gentle and complete. Tessa accepted it without injury. Another night. Next week, Paige said. No one pointed to the schedule. At 6, she began collecting glasses. You don't have to throw us out, Jordan said. I'm not throwing you out. I'm ending cocktails. That sounds like throwing us out with management training. It's how she stays young, I said. After they left, the house became quiet. Not empty. Quiet. The three of us ate at the shorter dining table. Paige had made roast chicken, potatoes, and green beans. The stuffing was technically for Christmas dinner, but Nathan cut a corner from the pan before she brought it to the table. Quality control, he said. You used a serving spoon, Paige replied. Large sample size. We opened the natural wine. It tasted exactly like the label looked. Dinner lasted longer than scheduled. Nathan told a story about a client who tried to insure a building that no longer existed. Paige corrected 6 details. I told them about Warren moving every chair at the recreation hall half an inch because Marlene said they looked militaristic. At 8:30, Nathan took the dishes into the kitchen. I'll help, I said. No, Paige said. I looked at her. She added, unless you want to. I want to dry. Then dry. Nathan handed me a towel. We've developed procedures. Very organized, I said. He winced. I deserve that. Yes. We finished the dishes together. Before bed, Paige came upstairs and leaned against the blue room doorway. Everything okay? The room is still here. Good. I might test the lamps. I tested them. That doesn't mean I won't. She smiled. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for inviting me. After she left, I put on the green robe and stood by the window. The backyard was dark except for lights along the fence. From downstairs came the faint sound of Paige and Nathan laughing. I had imagined this visit so often that the real thing felt almost disappointingly ordinary. That was its gift. No apology waited on the pillow. No one had surrendered a room at the last minute. I did not have to interpret comfort as proof of love or discomfort as its absence. I knew where I would sleep. I knew when I would leave. In the morning, Beverly and Frank arrived at 9:30, exactly when the schedule said they would. Beverly kissed my cheek. I like this arrangement better, she said. What arrangement? The one where I get my room and you get yours. Frank hugged me with one arm while holding a bakery box in the other. I brought cheese straws. You bought cheese straws. I brought them from the store. They won't be the same, Beverly said. Frank opened the box and ate one. That's why I bought enough to evaluate. Simon and Monica arrived before lunch. Monica's back was better. Simon had changed his beard in a way that made it impossible not to notice and difficult to compliment. Eric and Leon came at 2, carrying wine, flowers, and a square package for Nathan that Leon claimed was not haunted. The house filled. For an hour, I felt the old reflex take over. I collected coats, found Frank's preferred glass, showed Monica where to put her bag, and began moving serving dishes before anyone asked. Paige touched my arm. Do you want to sit? I'm fine. Verified? I looked around. Eric and Leon were arguing over music. Nathan and Simon were opening wine. Beverly was explaining to Monica why the bakery had overcooked the cheese straws. Nobody was stranded. I'd like to sit, I said. Paige cleared a place beside her on the sofa. I sat. It should not have felt rebellious. Sitting in a room where everyone else was also sitting required no courage. Yet for several minutes, my hands felt unemployed in my lap. Frank offered me a cheese straw. I took one. "They're not good," he whispered. "You've eaten 4. I'm gathering evidence." At 4, Paige began organizing dinner. She gave Nathan the potatoes, asked Eric and Leon to set the table, and sent Simon to open bottles. Beverly volunteered for the green beans. Monica sliced bread. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "The stuffing. Anything else?" "No. Are you sure?" "Yes." I waited. Paige looked at me. "Do you want something else?" "No." "Then why are you still standing there?" "Old age. You walked 4 miles with Warren last week." "Who told you?" "You did. I carried the stuffing to the oven. Dinner was late again. Not dramatically. The potatoes needed another 15 minutes. Simon opened the wrong bottle. Monica misplaced her glasses and discovered them hanging from the front of her sweater. Nathan forgot to warm the rolls. At 6:18, Paige stood in the kitchen staring at 4 serving bowls and a cold basket of bread. "We were supposed to eat at 6, she said. "According to what?" She gave me a look. "The rolls take 5 minutes, I said. "Everything is getting cold." "Nothing is cold. The green beans are. Beverly made them. She'll blame the stove." From the dining room, Beverly called, "The stove is unreliable." Paige laughed. She put the rolls in and stopped looking at the clock. When we finally sat down, Eric raised his glass. "To Mom making it this year." Every head turned toward me. The room tightened. Paige spoke before I could. "To everyone being here because they chose to be." Eric lowered his glass slightly. "That was what I meant." "I know," she said. "It was not a rebuke. It was a correction." We drank. The silver pieces sat on the table, reflecting candlelight and blurred faces. Paige had asked to borrow them 3 weeks earlier. She had picked them up herself on the 23rd and returned them to my suitcase after dinner was over, wrapped in the old pillowcases. Frank praised the stuffing. Beverly objected to the chestnuts. Simon ate 2 servings. Monica asked for the recipe, and Paige said, "It isn't a recipe. It's a family argument with broth." After dessert, Tessa texted Paige a photograph from the bar with the fireplace. Paige showed it to me. "Looks crowded," I said. "She wants us to come. Do you want to?" "No, you don't have to stay for me. I'm here tomorrow, I'm aware. What does Nathan want?" Nathan, carrying plates behind us, said, "Pants with elastic." Paige laughed and put her phone away. The guests began leaving according to their own needs rather than her schedule. Tessa and Jordan had never come for dinner. Simon and Monica went upstairs after 9. Beverly took Frank with her at 9:30 despite his attempt to remain near the pie. Eric and Leon stayed until 10, then gathered their coats. At the door, Eric hugged me. "Better?" he asked quietly. "Different." "Good different?" "Yes." He glanced toward Paige, who was helping Leon untangle his scarf from a coat hanger. "She worked hard. I know. So did you." "I know." He smiled. "Look at that. Go home." After they left, Nathan loaded the dishwasher. "I'm going upstairs," he announced. "This is not a statement. I'm tired." "Verified?" Paige asked. "Extensively." He kissed her, wished me good night, and disappeared. Paige and I were alone in the kitchen. The remains of Christmas covered the counters. Crumbs, corks, a spoon in the sink, a torn piece of wrapping paper beneath the table. 1 cheese straw remained in the bakery box. Paige picked it up and broke it in half. "Frank missed one," she said. "He's slipping." We ate it. It was not good. "Coffee?" she asked. "At 10:30? "Decaf. That is not coffee. I have tea." "Tea." She made 2 cups and carried them into the living room. The lamps were low. The fireplace had burned down to red coals. We sat at opposite ends of the sofa. For a while, we talked about the day, Monica's glasses, Frank's evidence, Nathan's elastic pants. Whether Simon's beard was intentional, nothing urgent happened. No one needed us. No phone rang. No timer sounded. Paige tucked her feet beneath her and held the cup in both hands. The green mug I had given her the year before was in the dishwasher. Her tea was in an old white one with a crack near the handle. "Last Christmas," she said, I thought everyone leaving early meant I'd failed. And this Christmas, I was relieved. Growth. I wanted them to go. More growth. She smiled. Then she looked toward the dining room. I almost made another 6-page schedule. I'm not surprised. I had it open on my laptop. What stopped you? The gray box. I waited. I found the old file, she said. I hadn't deleted it. Why not? I don't know. Maybe because deleting it felt like pretending it hadn't happened. The fire shifted softly. I looked at every fixed plan, she continued. Lunch, cocktails, pickup times, Nathan's run. Then I saw your name at the bottom. I remember where it was. I know. She turned the cup in her hands. I kept thinking about what I said, that everyone else needed certainty. They did. So did you. Yes. I thought closeness meant I could give you less structure, like making a plan would make us formal. Closeness means you can be comfortable. It doesn't mean careless. No. I took a sip of tea. Paige said, "Were you afraid to come this year?" A little. That I would do it again? That I would pretend it was fine if you did? She looked at me. I was more afraid of myself than you, I said. You apologized. You changed things. But I still know how to disappear while standing in a kitchen. You didn't disappear today. I almost did. I saw. Thank you for asking. Thank you for answering. The clock on the mantel reached 11. This one kept accurate time, which David would have considered dull. Paige leaned her head against the back of the sofa. I'm glad you only came for 2 nights, she said. I looked at her. That sounds wrong. A little. I'm not glad you're leaving. I'm glad you had something else you wanted to do. I'm glad you didn't drop it because I asked. You were disappointed. I was. And I survived. I smiled. She moved closer and rested her head against my shoulder. We sat that way while the fire faded. The schedule on her refrigerator said our protected dinner had ended hours earlier. The rest of the night had no box, no color, and no promise attached to it. Paige stayed, not because nothing else wanted her, not because I had cooked, traveled, waited, or made myself easy enough to keep. She stayed because she had made room, and because, this time, so had I.